Aita for divorcing my husband for being infertile. I, 29F, have been with my husband, 29M, for 6 years, married for 3. We both come from family-oriented backgrounds and have always wanted kids. We're financially stable and can provide a child an amazing life. We've officially started trying for a baby in early 2023. After months of nothing, I started to get worried. I wanted to get our fertility checked then, but he said I was being a worry rat and let's wait a year of trying before we get any testing. A year was in February, and I scheduled our testing then. The results shocked us. We were both ignorant and assumed I was the one with the issue if there was one. I mainly see women talking about being infertile, so it didn't cross our mind it could be something else. The doctor calls us and in one of the worst days of our lives tell us that my husband has a condition called azoospermia, meaning he has no sperm. In his case they say that the surgery to extract directly from his testicle doesn't seem that it will yield high results, but it wouldn't hurt to try. My husband and I were devastated. I wanted us to explore all routes. Him taking the medication and getting the surgery, and if that fails, either a sperm donor or adoption. I understand this is life-changing news, especially for my husband, but since February he's refused to do anything about it. He said he doesn't want to take meds and get the surgery if it will be a waste like the doctor thinks. That using a sperm donor makes him feel emasculated and he doesn't want to raise my child with another man's DNA, even if it's from a relative of his, and that adoption isn't something he's ever wanted. I have no one to talk to about this in real life since he doesn't want his diagnosis out there. It's been affecting me really bad mentally. There's nothing more I want than to be a mom. I've begged him to go to therapy and he refuses, saying he accepts it. I'm the one that isn't. Every time I try to start a conversation he shuts it down by saying that we will never have a child together, he will never be able to be a real dad, so to move on. I know what I want for myself. That's motherhood. I am willing to go down any avenue to motherhood, but he doesn't want to. I realized this past summer that he's right, we will never have a child together. I had one final conversation with him since he avoids the topic like the plague last night. I sat him down and said I empathize with him about this life-changing diagnosis, and that he doesn't want to get the surgery, which I respect, or use a donor or adopt. But that I want to be a mom and I'm not getting any younger. And if he isn't willing to explore any avenue or go to fertility therapy, then I want a divorce. He broke down saying he can't believe I would be willing to walk away from our marriage over this. That if the shoe was on the other foot he would never leave me for being infertile. He says I'm a horrible person and that I'm punishing him for something he can't control. I told him it's not for being infertile, I can work with that, but it's because he's refusing to go down any route to become a parent, knowing that's something we've both wanted. He says that I never loved him, otherwise I would never contemplate divorce over kids that don't exist yet. He cried about it afterwards and refused for me to console him. I feel so horrible. But what else can I do? Continue begging him to change his mind or speak to a professional? He only wants bio kids and refuses to do the surgery because it's too much prep, daily vitamins, meds, no hot showers, etc. Aita comments. Commenter 1. He refuses to adopt, refuses to look into donor sperm, refuses to try any medical intervention. He refuses to even talk about it. It's not about him being infertile, it's about him being completely unwilling to understand your feelings, much less try to find a compromise to save your marriage. Commenter 2. Kids are sadly a deal breaker for most. I've walked away from many relationships because I don't want them and the other person does. In a way this situation is the same, he's not open to children another way, so sadly your life goals no longer align. It's obviously devastating for you both, but if you stay, you will resent him and probably leave later in life, without an easy path to children then. NTA, and I'm so sorry for you. Commenter 3. You're right on the money. This isn't about his infertility alone, it's his unwillingness to compromise or even consider alternatives. It's tough, but if you've made it clear what you want for your future and he's choosing to shut down all options, then it's totally fair to think about what's best for you. Staying in a situation where your dreams aren't aligned can just lead to resentment later on. Commenter 4. Hi. Currently in the midst of IVF treatments for MFI. First off, I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. I completely understand wanting nothing more than to be a mother. I also understand the absolute heartbreak and devastation that comes from finding out that your person, or who you thought to be your person, may not be able to physically give you a child. My husband and I are lucky, I suppose. His numbers are low and all of his other parameters are also not within the normal range, but he has numbers. I cannot imagine what you, or your husband, have truly been feeling since receiving that diagnosis, however I can relate to a point. My husband was also not the most receptive upon first receiving the news. Most men do take it as a personal hit to their masculinity. He was adamant that it was a mistake, so we tested again, and we got a second opinion, but alas, it was still the case. We were both devastated, but we talked about it. We talked about what was important to us both. I, like you, was, and still am, very willing to do anything and everything to try to grow our family together. These were not easy conversations. We had to cut them short. We had to revisit them. We cried, we screamed, we cursed whatever entity we could for putting us in this place. But we talked about it. It was like pulling teeth to get my husband to take his vitamins, to focus on losing weight, to make the changes that were recommended to us. We worked through it together, and we continue to every day. It is not easy. But we both hope and feel that it will be worth it if we make it to the other side. There was a lot of tension and arguing before reaching that point though. Your husband may benefit from therapy, or some other outlet for him to express what he's feeling. It helped mine a lot. Finding out that you're the problem in this equation is a heavy hit, and I have done everything to make sure he knows that it's not his fault, and had we not checked we never would have known. Throughout everything I was very clear that I wanted a family with him and not with anyone else, and that no matter what it looked like getting there, he would be the father of our children. We haven't needed to revisit the donor sperm conversation, but that one in the beginning was a hard no. He's softened to the idea, but again, we're not there yet. But throughout these conversations I was still very honest that having children has always been something I have wanted and I would not be willing to compromise on that. Genetics are important to a lot of people. And to a point, they're important to my husband and I. We would of course love our children to be a combination of the two of us, but at the end of the day, we realized that a genetic relationship is not what makes you a parent. You get far enough into this and you may realize that it's not the be-all end-all for you. My mother was adopted, so maybe that made it an easier conversation to start, but it certainly helped to frame it in a way that made my husband more open to many options. None of these things happened overnight. We started trying for a child in 2021. We are nearing 3 years. We weren't even able to have our official consult with an infertility specialist until August of 2023. This is a long road. And it is hard. IVF with ICSI ended up being the route we've taken, and after an IVF cycle in April we had 6 embryos. We transferred one fresh immediately following the retrieval cycle, but unfortunately it failed to implant. We're hopefully going to be trying another transfer soon with one of our remaining 5. All of the injections, procedures, blood draws, everything will be worth it to us if and when we can meet our healthy baby. I don't blame you for giving your husband the hard facts. And I'm so sorry that he's trying to frame you as a heartless monster. But you are absolutely not an asshole for feeling how you feel. Just like he's not an asshole for feeling how he does. You shouldn't have to live a child-free life because he is unwilling to budge. But he also can't force you into that life for the same reason. I hope you're able to have the conversations that need to be had. I hope he can see that this is something that affects you both. I'm saying NaH. Infertility is hard and unfair, and there's nothing that will ever prepare you for it. Nobody is at fault for feeling what they're feeling. However, your husband is being an AH for refusing to talk to you about it all. Not for his immediate feelings, but for disregarding what that does to you. For better or worse, in sickness and health. You chose each other to be your partner, and this is one of the hardest tests for what that entails. Good luck OP. If you need to talk, feel free to message me. I know this is a hard place to be. Update. Hello everyone. I posted this last year and received so much amazing feedback that genuinely changed my life. Since no one in my personal knew what was going on, being able to talk about it and get so much amazing advice was great. A lot of the people in the comments opened my eyes up to the possibility that he was refusing the surgery since that would be the final nail in the coffin. That if it failed that would be the end, and that could be the reason he was refusing to do anything. I took some time after posting that to do some self-reflection on the whole scenario and to go out the situation differently. We spoke about it extensively and I told him about how I completely understand his fears in not wanting to do the surgery, but I really want us to try a fertility therapist and we could just do one session. It didn't have to be a deep commitment. He agreed and that therapy session went amazing. We both spoke separately and then together and we did 5 sessions overall. You guys were right. My husband was scared to try anything because he didn't want it to fail. He was pre-rejecting the rejection. He opened up to me about a lot of fears and anxiety about his diagnosis. We deeply connected afterwards and got even closer as a couple. One day I saw vitamins on his dresser and realized he had been taking them without even telling me. I was so happy. We did another sperm analysis and they saw 2 SORM. We were so happy. Then to my complete and utter surprise my husband forwards me an email. He scheduled a consultation for the micro-tease surgery in December. It went well and he was approved for surgery this February. We went in with low expectations and to still be happy at the progress he's made, but they were able to get 3 sperm. My husband and I were ecstatic and couldn't stop crying. Everything went well at his 2-week checkup. Now we're in the process of IVF. I started taking medication to do my egg retrieval right after his surgery, and so far I have 12 eggs. Last month we just found out we have 2 embryos. Both healthy, 1 boy and 1 girl. Our implantation date for our daughter was May 1st and I tested positive a few days ago. We are so happy. I am so happy that we were able to get through this bump in the road. This has been amazing. I am so happy my husband's fear and my sadness to his fear was something we were able to get over. We have both extensively apologized to each other, him for shutting down and wanting to give up and me for not being more understanding to that life-changing news. Thank you guys again for all the advice you gave me. Comments. Commenter 1. This is the best update. So happy for you both. Commenter 2. Your patience, your empathy, your willingness to communicate through something this difficult is nothing short of inspiring. I wish you all the happiness in the world. Commenter 3. Congratulations to hopefully soon the 3 of you. Smiley face. Stories number 2. Aita for not letting my mother-in-law come over after she destroyed my Millennium Falcon Lego set. I, 38M, live with my wife, 37F, and my 7-year-old son. I work as an engineer and my wife is a senior supervisor at a law firm. I have always loved Legos since I was a kid, and sure, it's kind of childish but it makes me happy, so I've kept it as a consistent hobby throughout my adult life. In 2024 I spent months building the Millennium Falcon with my son. It's me and my son's pride and joy, and I often show guests who come over. My wife doesn't really get the hype but doesn't mind either. In early March my wife's parents came over for a week to spend time with us. As I usually do with guests, I asked them if they would like to see my Lego collection. They agreed, and I showed both her father and mother my Millennium Falcon. Her father was amazed at the time it took to build my sizable collection, but her mother said that it was a waste of time and that I should focus on being a real man and move up the corporate ladder. I laughed it off because she's pretty old and I figured she just held very old-fashioned beliefs. We left the room and nobody really mentioned it for a few hours, but at dinner her mother said out of nowhere that I should give up on all this Lego nonsense and be a real man. We ignored this and moved on, but you could see in her expression that she was not happy. Nobody said anything about it for the rest of their stay, and all seemed well the morning they left. They left at 3 a.m. to catch a flight, and we waved them off. I went back to bed but the next morning awoke to find my Millennium Falcon smashed to pieces with a note from my wife's mother calmly saying that this was for my own good so that I can be a real man and focus on what matters. It turns out she had quietly destroyed it in the night and left in the morning. Me and especially my son were very upset. I called her in the morning but she refused to apologize. I said that until she apologized they would not be coming back again. My wife is not happy with my decision on this matter and honestly I'm starting to wonder if I overreacted. Did I go overboard or am I in the right? Update: MIL refuses to back down over destroyed Lego Millennium Falcon. First off, I want to thank everyone for the outpouring of support. It's been wonderful seeing everyone's advice has helped me realize a few things. I had a good long talk with my wife in attempt to resolve this situation, and we've again called the mother-in-law which I hoped would diffuse the situation and bring things back down to earth. Instead, tensions have seemed only to have escalated. For anyone who didn't see the original post, my wife's parents came to visit for a week, in which things went relatively smoothly aside from some disparaging comments about my Lego collection from the mother-in-law, but after they left in the night we discovered the Millennium Falcon destroyed with a note from my mother-in-law saying she did this so that I can move on and be a real man. Firstly, after lunch my wife and I discussed the situation adult to adult. I expressed my feelings of her not being behind me in this. She admitted to having harbored feelings against my Lego collection. She also admitted to secretly agreeing partially with my mother. She doesn't think that my mother-in-law should have gone as far as she did, but according to my wife I need to move on. I feel hurt by this since it's been my lifelong hobby and being an engineer I take great joy in building various creations with Legos. After that, my wife and I were certainly not in agreement but we were at least on the same page. We also both wanted to resolve things with my mother-in-law and so that day we called her mother and things did not go well to say the least. I simply told her that I was sorry I had to not let her come back, and I hope things can be resolved quickly. Still feeling upset about the Lego Millennium Falcon, I said that all I asked of her was an apology. She refused, saying that if she bends for me at all I would never get over my Lego obsession. My wife is not happy with any of this and frankly the marriage is starting to show tensions, which worries me greatly. She seems to be more distant after all of this. My son has developed a strong disliking of the mother-in-law and I really can't blame him. She has been getting a little crazy and seems to only talk about Trump these days. Should we start considering a senior home for her? So that's the update. things are getting even worse and I'm not sure if I can salvage the situation. I'll update everyone when new developments occur. Stories number 3. I, 17M, might not be my dad's son and my older brother, 20M, and my parents are making my life hell. My dad and I never had a close relationship growing up, him always preferring my older brother, Junior, 20M. Junior always had preferential treatment compared to the two of us, always the golden child, and always could do no wrong. I was always the scapegoat, always mistreated, always forgotten between the two. Our grandfather started and ran a very successful business in the area and before he died left it, and a substantial amount of money in a trust to be inherited by all legitimate grandchildren. Grandfather didn't like our mother much, which I will get into. Our dad has a job in the business, but no real power or authority in it, just job security at the company. Well, last weekend my dad was digging through some old boxes and found my mom's old diaries and it turns out she had an affair over 20 years ago that ended just under 10 years ago when the affair partner died in a car crash. After much arguing and turmoil, my parents agreed to stay together, but only if me and Junior took DNA tests and depending on the results they kicked the bastard out. Since the agreement, we've been to the labs, my dad's gone to a lawyer to draft papers, whatever that means, and my brother's harassment's been worse than ever, entering my room with a "Hey there, bastard." I've asked my mom to stand up for me but she's refused and just says I need to be strong and that's it. We should be getting the test results back in tomorrow, and my best friend's dad has agreed to take me in. I can't take it. What should I do? Top comments. Commenter 1. No matter the results you should go live with your best friend's dad as your home life is so awful and toxic. I am sorry you are being put through this. Are you still in high school? Go talk to your school counselor immediately. Commenter 2. Move out. Even if it comes back with your legal father he is making it clear you are unwanted. Don't do anything that would force you out of the company. That is why your brother is being a total ass. He wants to get the money and if you go total no contact he might be able to rob you. If you are your legal parent's child contact the lawyers of your grandfather to see what you can get to pay for school. The best revenge is to live a great life without them in it. I know this sucks. Get some professional help with dealing with this. The emotional trauma of this will linger for decades. Commenter 3. Also please do not, for any reason, sign any document given to you without discussing it with a professional unrelated to your family. You should also make sure to keep notes about what is going on. If your father is drafting papers and the point is to disinherit you from your grandfather's estate, he should not be able to sign those papers on your behalf because he is conflicted, self-dealing, which in the legal world is breach of fiduciary duties and challengeable in court. Aita for forcing my parents to keep disowning my half-brother. My parents never got along with me, 21M, they clearly favored my half-brother Junior, 23M. My dad was especially harsh, since he wasn't what I considered an ideal son. My grandparents started a fairly successful small HVAC business in our area, and my father has a job there, but no real power, with the actual business ownership belonging to a trust. My grandfather didn't trust my father with financial decisions. 3 years ago, my dad found some old diaries my mom had, and in them she detailed an affair that went on until the affair partner died 12 years ago in a car wreck. They argued for days, precisely because the trust that owns the business will be going to only biological grandchildren. My grandfather hated my mom and suspected her of fooling around. My parents agreed to reconcile if Junior and I took DNA tests. Both Junior and my dad were sure I would not biologically be related and they would get to kick the bastard out. Well, 3 years ago we went to the lab, went to a lawyer's office, and the tests came in. I was my father's son, Junior was not. What's more is the house we live in was also to go to only biological grandchildren, and my birthday was coming up. My father was subdued on the drive home, but Junior was still mouthy. My father, to his credit, tried to mend fences that night. He looked awful, he cried, he begged for forgiveness. He asked what he could do to start making things up. I said kick the bastard out. My parents begged, pleaded for me to try anything but that. Set up family counseling, get us fixed. I wouldn't budge. I pointed out they were fully ready to kick me out that night if I wasn't my father's son. My father kicked Junior out that night, but he was doing it full of tears. I must confess, my relationship with my parents did not get better. My father acts like a broken man, and my mother is just silent. Honestly, they should have divorced long ago, but they don't argue anymore. I started working at the family business, going to college on the side. My parents are outright timid around me now. My father would try to spend time with me, but I brush him off. Lately, they would both ask if I was willing to have the three of us contact Junior, and have all of us mend fences. I keep refusing, and ask if it was me. Would you even be asking? My mentor at my grandfather's business knows the situation and has asked me if I'm doing this because I want to hurt them or if I want to avoid being hurt. Top comments. Commenter 1. NTA. This goofy family has dropped more crap on you from their inability to have healthy relationships than you should ever have to deal with. Commenter 2. NTA, but I think you are going about it the wrong way. There should be no credit to your father. The only reason he tried to rebuild a relationship with you right away is because he found out you are their meal ticket. I can't even imagine the heartache you must have grown up with, what that car ride to the clinic before you knew the truth must have felt like. The fear of thinking you were about to be kicked out of the only family you have known. My advice to you is to get therapy, accept that your birth family is never going to be what you want them to be. You already grew up and they already messed up your childhood. Figure out what you want for your life and pursue that. Remember, you owe them nothing. The business and the house belong to your grandparents and now you. Put yourself first, since they never bother to do that for you. Stories number 4. My ex says I left him because I was too upper class for him. 4 years later, he says he wants to get back together. I ended up leaving my ex 4 years ago. We dated in college, different apartments, and I come from a significantly upper middle class background, which apparently was too much higher for him. His words, not mine. I didn't care, and when we started dating, even when we were 20, I told him I didn't care what his background was. If he and his family were willing, I'd make mine accept him too. But just in the last few months of graduation, he became so hateful. He would say such offensive things if I bought a new dress. He had a problem with my dad so much, because my dad and mum wanted me to go up to a PhD, and called it an elitist waste of time. He refused to even come to my celebration party, our common friends threw when I got into a prestigious master's program abroad, because it wasn't like you got a scholarship, your father is paying for it. I loved this man like crazy, and I still believe he loved me too, and I still don't understand why he became so hateful, that he ruined the last months of undergrad for me. I felt guilty for ordering pizza. He scolded me for not knowing his family's puja rituals well, and if I defended myself he would apologize and say he gets insecure because I will find someone much better than him. This kept on, till my sister who was only 15 years old sat me down and told me that I am losing myself by being with him. I drew some boundaries after that which he didn't take well, and he told me he was breaking up with me anyway to save my life, because someone like him wouldn't know how to maintain a spoilt child like me. He also said he knew I would leave him the moment I decided to go outside the country, because I needed to rub it in his face that he couldn't have a life I had, and make him more miserable. I was inconsolable for months after that, barely eating, and lost a lot of weight. That did me favors. I just soft launched my BF a few days ago in my Insta story. I didn't date anyone these 4 years and focused on my studies and traveled a little, plus my mom had a health scare and parents relocated to relatives and much closer to me, which took a lot of time. My boyfriend is someone I have known over years, his brother is a close friend from my masters, and I am honestly happy where my life is right now. I didn't take support from my dad after my masters, and though I make less money, it's enough to keep me happy. My ex called me from a college friend's phone yesterday. He was crying and telling me he knew he messed up and wanted me to know he still loved me. I didn't want to prolong the conversation, and hearing his voice almost gave me a panic attack, and I told him I'm taken and cut the call. He sent me texts after texts from the mutual friend's account on how he was immature, and seeing me with another man showed him that he was wrong, and said things like he was even willing to adjust to my family. I blocked that friend. Today I called that friend again and told him I couldn't trust him anymore. He said sorry and further scolded me a little that I could have taken a little bit of mercy on my ex, because he was heartbroken. I don't know, man, I didn't realize how much his words had affected me before. My hands were shaking and I felt like I was bracing for a verbal attack from him. Both my ex and that friend is blocked, but I still feel so betrayed. My sister called him a bunch of names and I think I have calmed down a little, but I needed to vent. I always thought if I talked or thought about him, it would mean I haven't moved on, but after moving on, I now understand that he has only mentally scarred me, and can't help having conflicted thoughts about it. Update. I wasn't going to update and basically forgot about this account. But some drama happened these past couple of days, and I thought I should. My ex harassed me through literally almost all of our mutual friends. I cut off quite a few people I spoke to from college, but ultimately decided against cutting off everyone, because I saw how much he was bothering them. Most of my girlfriends from college told him to piss off, but most of the boys, except 2, took his side and asked me to hear him out. We had a really big group of friends during college, most of whom came together because of my ex and me. So cutting people off, who I have genuinely held close to heart, hurt a bit. Plus, despite most of my girlfriends telling him and his flying monkeys off, one of my closest friends is married to a friend of my ex. And even though she told me she could handle her husband, I could sense that she was getting frustrated. I asked her advice on how to deal with this and she promised me everyone will stop bothering me if I just talk to my ex once. I did. He called me, when he was at my friend's house, and I was so mad, and I asked him why he was bothering me this way. He sounded like he was sniffing, and his voice sounded like he was very emotional. Throughout the entire time, he explained how he was going through depression, and he had self-confidence issues and he took it out on me. How when he realized that he had been bad to me, he spiraled further. And he now knows my background isn't my fault, and he will do anything for things to go back. Then he said he wanted to contact me these years, but he didn't want to disrupt my career. Only when he saw me with my BF he thought that he might have been too late, and needed to talk to me. He then asked if there was really no way for us. I was very angry, more at his audacity, than him, because he really made me lose respect for so many people and I lost so many of my friends. I know, they took his side, and it was better for the long run, but I didn't need all this drama and mental stress. I told him I loved my boyfriend. I will most likely marry my boyfriend, and if not, I'd literally die than marry him and into his crazy Orthodox family. And I hoped that he was happy with ruining my friendship with the group, because there was no way I was going to tolerate my own friends harassing me to get back together with a guy who wrecked my life. Ultimately, his words just kept on pissing me off, so I cut the call. My friend said she and her husband have told my ex they won't support him anymore, and the friend group has now gone to my side. But I'm done. We are in our mid-20s, not in college. And just because I live far away, does not mean I want to be bullied. And I seriously don't want to speak to these people much again, because they ruined all respect I had for them. Still, you never know who you need in life, but I've told them they are on thin ice. My boyfriend and I are pretty happy. My parents are healthy, and my little sister is doing well in life. My career is going good. I'm going to spend my time doing things for me and my family and count my blessings. Honestly, when I heard crazy ex stories I always thought it would never happen to me, because mine hated me, but screw him, he can live in misery for all I care. I'm so glad I dodged that bullet missile. Stories number 5. Aita for not believing my wife was not intentionally cheating on me. First of all, I want to say I am not normally the person to post my business on the internet, but for reasons you will shortly see, I need a sanity check on this one, but there is absolutely no way I can share this dilemma with anyone who knows me. It's too fucked up and I'm honestly reeling here. So to try to make a long story short, my wife, 32F, and I, 32M, have been married for 5 years, no kids, but lately things haven't been so great. The main issue frankly is that there hasn't been sex, and I keep talking to her about this but she honestly seems completely indifferent, like she doesn't even care that I have needs. I ask her if she wants sex anymore and she just shrugs. At the same time she has been going to the gym more, highlighting her hair, wearing more makeup, sexier clothes etc., which to me seems like signs of cheating when combined with not having sex with me at all. So frankly I started to get fed up with the lack of respect and interest and consideration and above all the lack of communication, like she just won't talk to me about this. So while I'm not proud, I did check her phone and discovered very clear evidence she is cheating on me with a male coworker of hers, and not only that but in a total BDSM way where she is calling him master and stuff like that, totally not my thing, and honestly really upset me way more than just cheating that she would be calling another man master. So obviously for me this was the final straw and I knew there was no coming back from this. I just wanted a divorce and I wanted it right away, no kids, might as well start over while we're still young. So I just confronted her the next day after a night of stewing and sweating on the couch, and here's where the really fucked up part starts. As soon as I brought up her coworker, my wife starts sobbing and says she is not cheating on me on purpose but is under mind control by this man and that he hypnotized her to do these things. She said he literally put her under hypnotic control so that whenever he says certain trigger words she goes into a trance, and gives her suggestions that she will carry out even when they're not together. And she in no way wants to be involved in this but she has no choice because her mind is controlled. So I'm obviously like, what the fuck? Because that shit doesn't exist. Right? She's telling me this so confidently as if everyone just knows you can go around mind controlling your coworkers and it's a thing that happens, but it's not, right? So I have absolutely no idea what to say to this, but I asked her if this is true, why did she never tell me before, and she said his control stopped her. So why can she tell me now? She says she doesn't know because she doesn't remember all his instructions, but he may have let her tell me if I specifically asked, or it may be that the control was broken because it was too emotionally intense. I just honestly did not believe this at all and I don't even know what to do with this excuse, like I've never heard any shit like this in my life. But my wife could tell I didn't believe her and she started crying and saying I didn't trust her and she wants to get out of the control and if I can help save her from him then she'll leave him and never do anything like that again. And I need to believe it's not her fault because she would never do that to me. So basically at this point I just left and went to my brother's house and told her I need to get away from this right now. But she's been texting me since begging me to believe her. And I just told my bro I found out she was cheating and he said I can stay as long as I want but there's no way I can tell him all this crazy shit. So my question is what the fuck? First of all Aita for not believing my wife. Is this something that really can happen? I know hypnosis is used by psychologists and magicians but don't you have to consent to be hypnotized? I can just imagine if we called the cops about this they would laugh in our face. I feel sick thinking about this either way, but even if it's not true does my wife honestly believe this? And if she honestly believes she is under control should I forgive her even if it's not true? Update, wife cheated on me and claimed to be mind controlled. So a couple of people asked for updates and I was initially reticent but after everything that happened I wanted to share what I learned. I appreciate people's input, especially on the hypnosis part and how that works, but to be honest I think most of y'all were a little harsh on me and it was kinda dumb move on my part to post this situation online when nobody replying knows me or my wife at all. So I wanted to update to shed some light on that. So to get the obvious out of the way, we are getting divorced. So I spent a few days at my bro's house. And while originally I said there was no way I would ever tell him, finally we got pretty drunk and I spilled everything and showed him the texts from my wife too where she was insisting she was under control and would never choose to do this to me. To his credit he didn't mock or make fun of me at all and since unlike Reddit he actually knows my wife his perspective was honestly helpful and gave me some things to think about that I hadn't considered. And I kinda wish I had just talked to him in the first place but I was so humiliated I could only talk about it anonymously. But here's what he said. He agreed my wife is a very weak and gullible person. Someone who can be easily manipulated. And maybe she believed she was being mind controlled. But he said that doesn't make her innocent in this. And he made a comparison to people who join cults or spend thousands of dollars in online romance scams. The latter hit home. BC we have a relative who was involved in this. Their families and loved ones try to get them out and show them the facts but they continue rationalizing and believing what they want to believe for the sake of the fantasy of the romance or religion. They may be a victim but they're not innocent. And I get it, I can absolutely see that kind of behavior in my wife where she is willing to excuse and stick up for people who treat her like dirt, but not to stick up for herself or the people who are important to her. Here she is willing to stay under the thumb of anyone who will think for her and make decisions for her. The way we got together is I kinda saved her from a bad relationship she was in and I think she's kind of addicted to that dynamic to be honest. Letting someone control her and being saved. So I realized after talking to my brother, even if my wife believes she is being mind controlled, can I really go on with my life with someone who would let herself be this deluded to maybe risk our finances, our future children's safety, etc.? Obviously not. I don't think I ever would have stayed with her after this obviously but my brother's advice really made things clear to me in a way I hadn't thought of it before. So now what happened with my wife? I did have to go back to our place to get some of my stuff and honestly I did want to talk to her, I guess to try to get closure and to make her hear my perspective, and maybe try to shake sense into her one last time. Like I do still care about her and I want her to try to figure her shit out and never do something like this again. So we talked and the first thing I told her was that we are getting divorced and she could not change my mind. There was a lot of crying at that. Next I asked her if this was all a lie or does she really believe she was hypnotized. Because I very bluntly told her mind control is not real and hypnosis doesn't work unless you consent to it. And she told me she consented to the initial hypnosis which was all non-sexual but he eventually started putting in sexual suggestions and by then she couldn't resist and I said okay, so why didn't you tell someone or get help? And she said his control prevented her. So I told her if she really believed this is true she needed to contact her HR department and the police. But I think she just needs mental help. And she was willing to sacrifice our marriage for her sexual fantasy, and I hope one day she can admit it was her fantasy. She didn't argue too much with that but she didn't admit it either. And she showed me her text to the guy where she told him his control was broken and it was over. He said and I quote, "That's fine, I already got everything I wanted from you anyway." So she ruined our happiness for someone like that. A hard pill to swallow for me and for her. So I told her I had to go and she asked if we could stay in or be friends and I said no. We will talk through lawyers from now on. Not to be harsh but I don't need to feed her fantasy that I will still save her somehow. But I encouraged her to get help. As for me, I'm gonna stay single for a while and TBH I should probably rethink what kind of woman I want to and try to find a gal who is more independent and doesn't need to be saved per se. Both in the meantime I always wanted a dog and my soon-to-be ex-wife is allergic, so I think I'm gonna start there. Stories number 6. I'm convinced this is divorce-worthy but some families say I'm making it a big deal. I'll start with some background. I was raised by a man who hated people for their color. I have total 7 siblings. 3 older brothers, 1 older sister, 1 younger sister, and 2 younger brothers. We all have the same dad but the older siblings have a different mom. We are all fully Caucasian. My younger siblings have not had children yet. I have 2 kids who are white. All of my older siblings have children, in total they have 8 kids who are all mixed. I love all my nephews and nieces. Despite being raised around a hateful man, I never internalized his thoughts as my own. I went to school with primarily black kids and still today those are some of my closest friends. I've told my husband about my past. I've told him how sick it was to be a child having to listen to my dad talk about people so hateful. How confusing it was because I went to school with so many and was close friends with many. My husband has 2 nephews and 1 niece. The 2 boys are white. His sister just had his first niece who is mixed. A beautiful baby girl with a head full of hair. Just absolutely precious. We went to go visit and I brought his sister some soups for easy dinners. Her race never had came up in any conversation because I didn't think it mattered. I mean, she's a baby and she family. When we got home my husband let out a big sign and said how ugly the Ni***** baby was. He also added some other foul language regarding his niece baby. I don't really want to type out specifically what he said because it's disgusting. He said this in front of our 4-year-old. Like it was no big deal. Now I'm worried our son will go to school, which is primarily mixed race, saying this foul language. I'm convinced this is divorce-worthy. I'm sick about it because now I have 2 children with this man. If I leave he will have time with them, and what if he says this same foul language in front of them still on his time? In all the years he has never said anything this foul. Before we met he was dating a white woman who had a mixed daughter for a year. He also has multiple black friends that he grew up with. I would have never imagined these words coming from his mouth, let alone about family. I'm speaking with a lawyer next week. I just don't know what I'm gonna do to shield my kids from it. Stories number 7. AITH for being the reason my coworker is getting divorced. I'm 23, happily single, and I work with a really chill team. Everyone's super friendly, we help each other out a lot, and we usually go out for lunch together once a week. Our boss is cool too. He'll bring in coffee and donuts every now and then just because. We got a new guy recently, I'll call him Jake. He's in his early 30s, been married for a few years, no kids. Whenever we invite him to join us for lunch or whatever, he always says he can't. At first we thought he was just shy or maybe not into group stuff, which is totally fine. But then one day during a meeting, our boss brought coffee and donuts, and Jake was like, man, I want one so bad, and someone asked if he had a health thing. He goes, nah, my wife Allison doesn't let me have coffee or junk food cause she doesn't like me have any caffeine or sugar. The room went quiet real fast. I probably shouldn't have said anything, but I asked, wait, is that why you never come to lunch with us? Cause your wife won't let you? And he said yeah. Apparently she doesn't want him doing any social stuff without her now that they're married. Like, he's only allowed to go out if she's there too. I told him if anyone tried to control what I eat or who I hang out with, I'd be out. That's not normal. My boss agreed and told him he might want to talk to someone about it, like a counselor or something. Well, Jake came in today and said they had a huge fight after that convo and she kicked him out. Now he's talking to a lawyer about separation. My sister thinks I was out of line bringing that up in front of everyone, but honestly, was I? I didn't mean to stir the pot, I just couldn't stay quiet about how messed up that sounded. Still, I feel a little guilty. Did I overstep? Stories number 8. Manager said if you're on time, you're late, and so I started showing up 30 minutes early, and charging them for it. A few years ago, I worked at a company where our manager was obsessed with punctuality. She had constantly say, if you're on time, you are late. She wanted everyone there at least 15 minutes early and unpaid, of course, and would shame people who showed up just on time. I asked once if we had be paid for those extra 15 minutes, and she laughed like I told a joke. So I decided to comply. Maliciously, I started arriving 30 minutes early every day, clocking in exactly when I arrived. When she confronted me it, I told her I was just trying to be really prepared. You always say 15 minutes early is the bare minimum, right? She tried to argue, but since I was hourly and our system logged every minute, payroll started paying me for all that early time. After a month, upper management noticed and asked her why overtime had increased for her team. She backtracked so fast suddenly on time was fine again. Stories number 9. Reported a psycho to HR today. Place your bets on what's gonna happen next, ladies. I might need some supplemental income soon, so let's start a betting pool. Today I had a meeting with the tiniest man you've ever met. But it's not his height. This man-child must have been high when he thought they were talking to me like this. Luckily, even though this was my 3rd time seeing this little shit, I already knew he was a psycho, smiley face. He pulled me into his office. I came in with my best face, because I knew I'm gonna have to document the shitshow that was about to unfold about this insignificant issue we were discussing. Not more than a minute in, the tantrum began. Right in the middle of my sentence, of course. So here is the plan we propose. Probably sounded like the end of my presentation. Like I was done talking, but instead of reacting, I sat back and observed the madness. He was freaking out, his eyes were crazy, his speech disconnected, he went off the rails. Clearly he had zero interest in any sort of discussion. He pulled me in to yell at me. I started timing. I let him yell for 30 seconds, and then I say, please choose your words carefully, we're about to cross the line here. He didn't even hear me. I wait another 30 seconds of this radio, get up from my chair, take my notebook from the table and say, let's pause. If we continue like this I'm going to have to leave the room. And in another 10 seconds I say, I'm going to go now. And as I walk out of the room he yells, what are you upset about, to my back. Reported. Here is the funniest part. He's not my boss. I don't even work for that company. He's a client. I work for a vendor. So this has a whole other level of complexity now. Bets start at $5. Comments. Commenter 1. He gets a promotion. Commenter 2. I was a vendor once that got harassed. This is exactly what happened. Update. Reported psycho to HR. Day 2. Were you unsafe? So yesterday I reported a client who yelled at me to my vendor, HR. Today is day 2 of shit show unfolding. I sent a detailed report of what happened to my boss and HR and spent an hour with HR on the phone. The situation got escalated, because after I walked out of the client's office he immediately messaged my boss that I need to be removed from the team. Mind you, I'm not billable, client doesn't pay for me. Me and the client psycho are the same age, we make the same money, and we have the same amount of people reporting to us. We're peers. I'm there to allow him to use my people for his workloads. Peers but not in his eyes. So now my boss is like, oh, where are you from, what happened, why did you walk out on him? He's generally confused, and so am I. I mean, I wrote the report in detail, but the why and what the shit happened remains unclear. So today we meet for lunch with boss, he drives from another city to meet with me first and then go talk to the client psycho. He keeps asking if I felt unsafe. And I try to play it cool, look my yesterday's post, and that I handled this to my best professional ability. But the more I think of it, I did feel physically unsafe. Of course I did, that's why I left. The room was quickly becoming a very bad place to stay at. And now the kicker, this morning I realized all my clients' accounts were deactivated by Psycho. Maybe he did it right after the meeting ick. So by doing this he very clearly is saying it's me or her. My boss told me he'll go talk to him, but worst case I'm sure you'll have no problem finding a new job. So in his mind, it's as if I'm already gone. There was absolutely nothing I could have done differently or better. I did everything right at this job. I'm 1 month in. I just moved to new city for this. Stay tuned. Comments. Commenter 1. I'm sorry this is happening, but it's unfortunately not surprising. You created a lot of extra work for them, so it's easier just to remove you. And as the vendor, you really don't hold the cards here. I read your post yesterday and I thought it wouldn't end well. Thanks for the update. Reply. I mean, I kinda had no options here. Client escalated this to my boss. However, I do wonder what outcome of that meeting would have satisfied the psycho. Right? He's deactivated my accounts because he's angry I walked out on him. So does this mean that if I stayed and continued receiving the abuse I would have kept my job? Is that the lesson he's trying to teach me? Commenter 2. While it's true you created extra work for them right now, it may be that psycho guy is going to do this again, and create extra work for them over and over and over again. You might point that out, if you don't deal with him now, and you let this keep happening, it's going to keep happening. Is it really to your benefit to let him continually disrupt your business and the relationships with your clients and have to bring in new people all the time to start over with accounts from zero? Reply, this is so very true. I do with that client's HR would get involved. This is just as disruptive for their business. They do pay us money to do what we do. And this one guy is violating a whole lot of policies for vendor management relationship. Update. Reported psycho to HR, day 4 HR scheduled a 15-minute catch-up for tomorrow. You know what that means. Breakdown. They kept throwing money at me to take the role. Bonuses, better conditions, I get to pick my own team, etc. I caved. Moved to a new city for this. I was supposed to be here for a year. I'm on site in client's office, working for a vendor. Vendor pays my salary, client doesn't pay for me. 1 month into the job exactly, last Tuesday, I walk into client's office to present a solution from my team. He loses his shit, I'm 99% sure he was on drugs, he's just inadequate. Yelling, insulting, I leave his office. He deactivated my access and calls my boss immediately. I'm super confused. Meet boss for lunch the next day, first time I see him in person. Boss tells me he knew this guy was crazy and he does that sometimes. But he's a very important client, so boss will try to smooth things over. So I was hired as a sacrificial lamb. Boss knew this guy was crazy. And he chose to hire a woman from another city to bring into his lap. Where I know nobody, zero support system, I rejected another offer for this, signed a lease and bought things. I keep poker face during lunch, still hoping everyone will come to their senses. I don't hear anything from anyone for a week. I send an email on Friday asking what's up, that I made a long-term commitment to this company and I'm holding space to resolve this peacefully. HR sends an email today at 9:40 p.m. to schedule a 15-minute catch-up tomorrow. Comments. Commenter 1. Reach out to the other company that made you an offer. You'll have less leverage, but you might still have a golden exit strategy. Edit. Should probably have started with, I'm really sorry this is happening to you. It's beyond messed up. Reply. That opportunity is gone. I'm extra pissed because I planned everything very carefully. The timing, how long it takes to find a new job these days. I took the best offer. I did my research. My due diligence. They fought for me. Am I moving again? Do I have to find a job in this weird city I've never even been to before this? SMH. I was trying to make myself feel better by saying that I reported him to HR, but technically, after I told my boss what happened, he kinda made me report this to HR. Which I probably would do anyway. But this whole thing was escalated by the client. I'm beyond pissed as I sit on the floor of my empty apartment, which will cost me $4,000 to break the lease. On top of $3,000 I spend on moving. Reached out to a few lawyers over the weekend, waiting to hear back. Update. Reported FICO to HR, day 5. I didn't let HR fire me today. Today we'll see what happens tomorrow, lol. Psycho yells at me last Tuesday, HR report same day, lunch with boss on Wednesday, and then silence for a week until 10 p.m. last night when HR schedules a 15-minute catch-up with me today. So 5 business days since the incident. I spent the whole week reading laws and building my case, which now isn't just about me. There is me of course, but I've identified a whole lot of serious violations in employment laws and vendor-client relationship in other things I've seen. My case only confirms the pattern. So I'm ready, and you wonderful ladies have given me so much ammunition, as well as emotional support. So okay. I'm now playing strategically, everything has been documented, and I mean everything, but how do I approach this call with HR? I'd really rather not get fired and deal with lawyers trying to prove my case against a $10 billion plus company. I get on the call, I open with I'd like to record this call, is this okay with you? HR is shocked. She says yes of course, hold on a second and starts messaging with someone for a full minute. I don't know for sure if it was about this, but if someone told me they're about to record our 15-minute conversation, I'd probably put off other messages for 15 minutes. But she's back, I say yes, thanks for making the time blah blah blah. I'm very eager to hear which steps has the company already taken about the incident, which policies do you typically follow, and what next steps is the company proposing here. I say proposing next steps strategically, so if she says they're gonna fire me, I'd be like, so they propose to fire me? No, I don't think so. She's shocked. She takes a pause and replies with, at this time there are no other assignments for you here, which was probably her rehearsed opening to fire me. And I say, oh, okay, so I'm off the account officially and you're looking for other assignments for me? She says yes. Silence. Then I had to choose if I now want to bring up all the violations, all the shit they promised me when I started, how uncool and unfair this is and how terribly they're handling it, but I decided to smooth it out. I went personal. I said to her, listen, I just want to understand what to do right now. I had meetings scheduled with client other contacts this week, I have projects in progress, I had a new employee start on my project yesterday, 2 more starting next week, am I still doing anything for that or should I stop? Because I'm still involved internally. She said to talk to my boss about this, she doesn't know anything, she didn't have anything really prepared for today and she has no answers, but she will find out and will let me know about my next assignment. 9 minutes not fired yet. Next steps anyone? Is the betting pool still running? Comments. Commenter 1. Oof lady. Do you have something else lined up? I'd be trying to put some feels out regardless. Reply, I don't. I only started this job a month ago. The incident came so unexpectedly, and all week last week I was just in shock. I kept hoping this will be resolved as a misunderstanding and smoothed over. I am very good at my job. And everyone loves me, but mazelti my results. But yeah no. I need to start looking. Update. Reported psycho to HR, day 7 got offered 4-week severance, need to respond by tomorrow. We were right, that HR call on Tuesday was to let me go. We bought me 2 more days and I had another call with VP HR today. No other positions available, 4 weeks notice. I said I'll think about it, we're talking again tomorrow. I took this job, because they convinced me I'm not joining a specific client, I have it in writing, I'm joining vendor company, long-term potential, multiple clients, $10,000 sign-on bonus payable after 1 month, that you must return if you leave in under 12 months. Some guy attacked me, and now I'm fired because of this. This one particular guy with this one client apparently makes decisions who works for this vendor and who doesn't. And if this was true, I should have had interview with that client so we both agree that I'm taking this job. He's basically some guy as far as I'm concerned. And now your position has been eliminated and there aren't any other positions available in a $2 billion company. I moved and spent money on this, counting on at least 6 months. At least, now if I take their 4 weeks, I'll be in red. Between what I already spent, and believe me when I tell you I was very careful with my spending, moving to another city, I broke my old lease, flight, this new lease will cost me 2 months rent to break. It takes 3 months of interviewing to land a job in my role. That's how long it took with this company too, and they know it. Fun fact. Another law firm rejected my case today and told me technically in NC they don't even need to notify you that you're fired, they can just ghost you on the spot and that's perfectly legal. And unless you're a protected class no one will take your case, so I don't even know if I have leverage anymore. I've technically only done 4 weeks of work here. The work was good and I have fast results, but still, a day before the incident me and my boss outlined a 12 months plan for me. It's 100% because of the incident, nothing else has changed. Comments. Commenter 1. Your counter needs to include 1. The real out-of-pocket losses. 2. Keeping your signing bonus, your position was eliminated, you did not leave. 3. Cost to break lease and relocate back, whether you relocate or not doesn't matter. 4. 3 plus MO of income for estimated job search time that you will be without an income. 5. Other opportunity costs associated with this lost opportunity, the stress, and what you experienced with a very hostile client. 6. Other I didn't think of. I agree, tell them you need an extension. Did they provide the signing papers with the severance package or only give you a verbal? You'll need a lawyer to at least review those docs before you sign or counter anything. Edit TOADD, get everything in writing. Reply, all verbal today. We're supposed to talk again tomorrow, so verbal again tomorrow. Okay, you're right, thank you. See, I think they owe me 6 months pay and bonus. That was the minimum agreement expectations. And I'm not even asking to cover what could have been a physical assault if I started in the room with a psycho client. I left the room so now I'm getting fired. Let's not forget that. I'm getting fired and there are no positions in the company for me because I refuse to get assaulted. Update. Reported psycho to HR, day 8. We start a war. After receiving my termination notice yesterday with 4-week severance offer, my company's stance became clear. Here is the email I sent to VP HR this morning, word for word, just names removed. Dear HR lady, thank you for meeting with me yesterday. I also wish it had been under different circumstances, but to be honest, our call left me in shock. I'm asking you, human to human, woman to woman, if there's anything at all you can do to influence the company to do the right thing, please tell me I can count on your support. Over the past several days, I've waited patiently, holding space for the company to respond appropriately. But I still can't believe that the only solution to their employee nearly being assaulted at work is termination. What happened? The client pulled me into their office and physically threatened me, while appearing, in my opinion, to be under the influence. When I removed myself from that dangerous situation, they immediately contacted my manager to complain that I had left the room, and had all my client's system access deactivated with that justification. They demanded I be removed from the project, and now my employment is at risk, despite the fact that I relocated at my own expense for what was supposed to be a long-term role. I now find myself in a new city, alone, with no support system. I feel I was first punished by the client, and now again by the company for refusing to be assaulted. I haven't slept properly in over a week. I'm experiencing severe panic attacks, struggling with basic functioning, and I just spent my birthday trying to find the right words to explain all this. At this point, I have every reason to believe I was deliberately placed into a dangerous situation. I've since learned that the team, my manager, and others at the company were aware of this client's aggressive tendencies before I ever joined. Yet they went out of their way to hire a woman, specifically telling me they thought a woman would be a better fit for this position. Not just any woman, but an immigrant woman with no local support system, who was relocating based on trust that this would be a safe and stable job. When I asked my manager directly, before ever meeting this client, what the relationship had been like over the past year, I was told he didn't want to give me preconceived notions and that I should go find out for myself. I was also told this client is very important and we must do whatever it takes to keep them happy. Ongoing harm. Should I now be on the lookout for further retaliation just for protecting myself? So far, I've been verbally attacked, physically threatened, and deeply humiliated over the company's silence. And now, they're preparing to put me into financial instability as well. I'm even requesting extra locks on my apartment door, but am I safe to go outside at all? This all makes me question the legitimacy of my offer in the first place. Because this really is starting to look like a constructive fraud in recruitment. Was this job ever intended to be long-term? Or was I, like another colleague I've since learned about, placed on a 30-day trial without my knowledge? The promises that made me choose this offer were variety of opportunities with the company, long-term employment, no dependency on one client, a sign-on bonus to be paid after 1 month, now overdue. Were any of these ever real? I made financial commitments based on them, including signing a 12-month lease after confirming multiple times that it was safe to do so. Just a day before the incident, we built a 12-month success plan with my manager, and I was already on track. An hour before the incident, I created a new sales opportunity. My feedback from both the internal team and multiple client contacts was consistently positive. So what's changed? It seems the only thing disqualifying me is my refusal to be assaulted at work. If that was a condition of the job, I should have been informed before signing. Smoothing things over. I appreciate the update about efforts to smooth things over, but I must ask, is that the official process? Was the client's HR even informed? What steps were taken? Because technically this incident may have violated vendor policy, and even merits a police report. But I foolishly assumed the company would protect me. If the employment offer was real, if budget was allocated, if the bonus was meant to be paid, if the company does not condone violence against its employees, I ask you to demonstrate that now through your next steps. Finally, is there a line the company plans to draw with this client? When I heard, "We'll do anything for the client," I naively assumed it meant as long as it's legal and ethical. Because I would hate for anyone to think the phrase "we'd kill for your business" is meant to be taken literally. Because you're about to kill me, figuratively speaking. I hope. Comments. Commenter 1. I doubt they'll ever respond to this letter. At this point, they likely have legal representation who is urging them to cut all contact with you. The only way this will get settled is through the legal system. Reply, not responding to this letter is also a response. I'll probably stop sharing what happens next for a little bit. I have been waiting patiently, and now is the time to go ballistic. I wanted to let y'all know that I'm fully geared up, legally protected, identified exact laws they broke and punishment for doing so, and I'ma keep going. I love y'all, please wish me strength and luck. Commenter 2. The only thing I would have added is that by leaving the room, you minimize the risk to the business. Remember, they don't give a shit about you. But they do care about their reputation. I can't remember, apologies, have they looped their legal team in yet? Because any decent corporate lawyer will see this as a risk mitigation problem, not a human problem, and honestly, that's how they should be thinking. Fired by X after being threatened is not a good industry headline, fools. ETA, the hard question is, do you want justice or do you want the money? Because they've shown who they are. Get that coin. Reply, legal hasn't been involved yet, I'm hoping this will get their attention. I did strategically mention 3 major law violations that should get their attention and show them I have a very good case. I only want what we agreed on, money and fair treatment. I'm not asking for anything new apart from what's in my employment contract. Commenter 3. Brava, it sucks that you'll never get the satisfaction of knowing the client was fired, or receive the apology you rightly deserve. But I'm glad you're not focusing on that as your goal. If HR haven't involved legal by now, they're going to be mad. And serious question, are you taking care of yourself while this goes on? Reply, I'm reaching out to the client too. If my company failed to do so, I have a right to do it myself. Stories number 10. Company car I was driving was hit by a drunk driver. Insurance fully paid for the car, but the company says I still owe them $40,000. I was on my way home from work in my company car when I was hit almost head-on by a drunk driver. He was found at fault by the police and the insurance company and was charged and convicted. His insurance settled with the company and gave them a payout to replace the car, which the company lawyer accepted. I am still off work recovering from my injuries and I probably won't be back for 3 more months. Last month I received a letter from the company stating that I owed them the cost of the car because I was the one responsible for it when it was totaled and written off. I thought it was mistake or something, so I called the insurance company, got written confirmation of the settlement and sent it into them with a note that the car had already been paid for by the insurance company. Now they have sent me to a collection agency and I have debt collectors calling saying I owe $40,000. I live in California. Do I call the insurance company to let them know, or do I need to get a lawyer? Is them calling the debt collector even legal? Sorry if these questions are stupid, but I am already stressed enough from trying to recover and this has just made it worse. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Try making some phone calls to your employer and the insurance company to see if you can get things straightened out quickly. But if you hit a brick wall, it's time to get an attorney involved. Don't let this go too long. Reply. My employer tells me I have to talk to the debt collector since it is in their hands now. I'll call the insurance company first thing Monday morning to see what they say. Commenter 2. It sounds like maybe you work for a pretty large company. You might need to climb the chain of command to speak with someone who has more familiarity with these issues. Your own employer should not be trying to collect a debt from you, whether directly or through a debt collection agency. The insurance company represents your employer, so they will probably be of limited assistance. More than likely, you'll need the help of an attorney to cut through this red tape. Edit. Oh, wait, who is the original creditor that turned over the debt to the collection agency, your employer, or the insurance company? Reply. The drunk driver's insurance company paid them $40,000 as a settlement to replace the car. This was accepted by the company lawyer in a letter and payment was sent. My company is the one that sent me to the collection agency. Commenter 3. Ah, got it. Yeah, it sounds like someone at your employer screwed up. You need to work your way up the chain to find the person who can rescind the decision to send it to collections. The insurance company might be able to give you some leverage documentation contact info. Update. The TLDR version is that I was almost killed by a drunk driver while I was driving a company car. His insurance paid the blue book value, $40,000, to the company, but I was sent to collections and told that I owed them $40,000 for the car because I didn't return it to them in the condition which they gave it to me. No one at the company or the collections agency would help me and they just sent me back and forth. Company told me to talk to collections told me to talk to the company, so I ended up getting a lawyer because the stress of being hounded by collections was setting back my recovery. The lawyer sent a very strongly worded letter to someone high up that I couldn't reach myself because I kept getting the runaround. That person didn't know anything about it and the company launched an investigation. The 3 people who kept giving me the runaround ended up being charged with fraud and a bunch of other stuff. I don't know much, but the police say they have emails and they think the 3 were planning on keeping the payment for themselves since the company was already paid. They are also in trouble for fraudulently using company resources to send me to collections for a fake debt. Afterward my company wrote me a letter of apology. They paid the costs for my lawyer and made sure the debt was removed from my record. They also made a donation to a charity of my choice. I am nearly ready to return to work, but they told me to take as much time as I need. After talking with the police, I believe the higher-ups were not aware because the police say the 3 were trying to keep it a secret. The drunk driver's insurance is paying all my bills related to the incident, so I won't have debt from this ever. All in all, I am doing much better. I would like to thank our legal advice and everyone who offered advice and encouragement and sent me supportive messages. You were all so helpful and I appreciate it. Stories number 11. Aita. Still, because I grew from the divorce and became the husband-father my ex had wanted me to be, I was the I know it. My ex and I, 40s, married in college in our early 20s. We went from living in the dorms together to being married and living on our own in another state due to my job. We enjoyed the honeymoon period with each other along with being young 20-somethings in an exciting new city. Not long after being married she was pregnant and our first child was born a few months after our first anniversary. She was a Psalm, I picked up overtime to cover everything. She matured way faster than I to support the baby. I was still closer to being a college dorm student than I was a husband-father equal. We had constant fights how I wasn't doing enough to help or supporting her physically or emotionally. I kept trying to tell her how I was doing enough, how I worked 80 hours last week, how I changed a diaper last week, how I cooked my own meal, just for me, so she wouldn't have to, etc. She would explain her problems and how I could help her, but I didn't hear them, I just wanted to argue. I used weaponized incompetence before that term was coined. In my mind I was working hard and she was just being unrealistic and couldn't see how much I did. In reality, there was far more work than I realized. My ex was drowning and asking for help and all I would do was argue with her about how there was no way she was drowning. Things would improve every few months, partly because I would do a little more work, partly because she just internalized her frustrations and stopped initiating conversations about them. We had another child during this time, but this soon added even more stress and the fights grew even worse. Eventually she said she couldn't handle it any longer and moved in with family a few hours away. I tried to win her back through love bombing, again, before I knew what that was, and figured she would come to her senses. And so I was extremely surprised when I got served the divorce papers. I couldn't believe it. I never cheated on her, I didn't abuse her, I had no vices, we loved each other, how could she be divorcing me? Yet she did, and when we met with lawyers I was taken off guard by how much resentment there was towards me. Where had that come from? We agreed to every other weekend visitations. The first time I had to take care of my 2 toddlers on my own for 2 whole days was an eye-opener. I had done it once or twice when married, but she had prepped everything, pre-made the meals, picked out the clothes, cleaned the house, etc. I was still learning how to consistently do the laundry and wash the dishes every day and pick up after myself. I had gone from living with my parents, to living in the dorms with roommates who constantly cleaned, to living with my ex. I knew how to take care of a house but never had to do it all on my own, someone else always picked up the slack. And now I was fully responsible for that and for two little lives for 48 hours. I remember being completely overwhelmed, and hit by a huge wave of empathy and understanding of where she had been over the past few years and what I had done to her. I apologized to her, but that only made her angrier, so I grew up. I vowed to make the most out of each weekend with my children. I learned how to cook, I actually liked cooking, I learned how to braid hair, I bought tons of unnecessary toddler supplies and packed them all in the stroller just in case my kids needed something on a walk, etc. On my own time I picked up new hobbies and went to the gym. I read the non-fiction, how-to relationship books that my ex had been begging me to read. Overall I worked on myself and tried to become a super dad to my kids. A couple of years after the divorce I started dating again. Being a single dad in my late 20s was a turn-off to a lot of women and I was rejected often, but I found myself being matched with other single moms and really connecting with them. I eventually met my now wife, a single mom whose ex had abandoned her for someone else and wanted nothing to do with their children. And to her, I was the perfect catch, a loving dad who worked hard, did the household chores, and was devoted to her. I learned from my mistakes in my first marriage, and took all the criticisms my ex had made about me to heart and improved from them. I became the husband my ex tried to make me into. I still slip up, and still have a lot to learn, but I do that with the support of my wife. I would still see my ex every other week and the relationship improved somewhat, but there was still an undertone of resentment in each interaction. She went back to school, got a job, and raised our kids as a single mom. I tried to get more visitation as they got older but she fought back and due to them living too far for daily visits, I only got longer summers with them. I have no idea about her dating life, I never asked the kids about her, but she is unmarried. I know very little about her life, she could be very happy and enjoying everything. But within our few interactions very little of that shows. Now, our youngest is a senior and going to graduate and I've been talking to my ex more to prepare for it. It's mostly cordial, but occasionally hints of anger and passive-aggressive comments come out. I have thanked her for being a wonderful mother to our children and raising them, and again apologized for never being there or taking her seriously all those years ago. I still feel like the though, sometimes because of how she understandably treats me, and other times just from my own guilt of how I treated her when we were married. She is about to have an empty nest after devoting her life to children when I failed her, and I am living the suburban family life we had planned for but with someone other than her. Am I still the for learning from my divorce and becoming the husband I should have been with my ex? Top comments. Commenter 1, NTA for growing and learning and apologizing. However your ex probably doesn't see it the way you do. You see it as you getting a rude shock, divorce, and realizing just how much you'd let your ex down, and that you needed to become an adult and be able to parent your kids, and to your credit you seem to have done exactly that, which is admirable. Your ex might see it that you refused to listen to her, refused to deal with any of the issues she was struggling with, and made her life a lot harder than it should have been. Now she sees you with your wife, and the perfect life that she should have had with you, but you couldn't give that to her, so she might be feeling that she wasn't good enough, that you didn't love her enough to do all that you do for your wife now with her. That sort of resentment can be lifelong, because every time she sees you she asks herself, why wasn't I good enough to be treated the way he treats his wife, which means you will always be for her. Of course that's just speculation on my behalf, and I could be totally wrong, but I had a friend who went through something similar, and 20 plus years later she still gets upset because she feels that she wasn't good enough. Commenter 2, you need to understand that you will always be the villain in her story. That you hurt and abandoned her so deeply when she was at her most vulnerable. That you can't fix what you did, or didn't do. That becoming a good husband and father only hurts her more because it means you were capable of being that man, just that you didn't care enough about her to do it for her. Whoever you are now, will never fix who you were or what you did. The second best thing you can do is accept all of that. The best thing you can do now is to be upfront with your now grown children. Be brutally honest about how you failed as a husband and father with your ex. Help them to not make the mistakes you did and to understand that part of their family history. Commenter 3, NTA, but your apology doesn't undo the harm you caused. She may never be friendly with you, you just have to accept it. She probably questions why she wasn't worth the effort you put in after she ended things. Update. TLDR, I married my ex in college, both now in our 40s, had 2 kids within 3 years, I worked while she was a SOM, I was the and I did not share the workload mental load, argued with her when she said she needed help, eventually she left and filed for divorce, and I was shocked to learn how much work it was to raise 2 toddlers as a newly single parent. The shock made me realize how much I failed her in our marriage. I apologized to her, worked to become a better father and person, years later met a single mom whom I eventually married and gained 2 amazing children, learned from my previous relationship mistakes to better support my growing family, and lived the suburban life that my ex and I had planned for but now with someone else. My older children lived with me 5 months out of the year, my ex went back to school, got a job, remained single, and we co-parented our 2 children, now adults. I still felt like the though, sometimes because of how she understandably treated me with veiled resentment, and from my own guilt of how I treated her when we were married. Thank you for those who continue to reach out for updates. While nothing has changed from my previous post's original question, I will always be the in my ex's eyes, I will have guilt for that for life, will continue to try to make amends with her, and will try to do better with my wife and kids. There was an event that brought a little closure recently. My youngest child, now 18, with my ex graduates this month. My ex held a party for them at her house which was attended by immediate family and friends from both sides. It was the first time many members of our respective families had been together since our wedding 20+ years ago. We hosted separate parties for our oldest child's graduation 2 years ago. Overall, the party went very well. Our daughter was celebrated and felt appreciated. She said it felt a little weird to have her two worlds collide, such as when her siblings hung out with her maternal cousins, or having both sets of grandparents spending lots of time talking with each other and laughing. It brought a pang of guilt that my daughter didn't remember a time when her grandparents were close friends, as they were before her mother and I divorced. My wife and my ex spent time with each other and laughed a few times. My wife won't tell me what all they talked about, so my guess is they shared some common war stories about me. My ex and I had a chance to talk as well. We mostly talked about the kids and how proud we were of our daughter, how excited she is to move for college, and what our oldest child was up to. She asked what was next with our family and I gave updates about my younger kids and their future graduations and activities. She returned that she was excited and a little anxious about having an empty nest. Her job is mostly the same but going well and she is planning on traveling. She also casually dropped the name Mark during our conversation. Mark and I talked about doing, and I had no idea who she was talking about. Maybe he's someone she's seeing, but she didn't elaborate, I didn't pry, and the topic moved on. I suspect we each assume our kids inform the other parent about our respective life updates more than they actually do, because it didn't seem like she was trying to drop major news on me when she said it. And there was no Mark present at the party, so I really have no idea what their connection is. Near the end, I again thanked her for being a wonderful mother to our children and briefly re-apologized for my actions years ago. She replied kindly and apologized for fighting so hard against me when I requested more visitation a decade ago. Note, initially, I only saw the kids every other weekend with short summers. I pushed for more visitation after I remarried, had moved into a larger house that could fit everyone, and was in a position to take care of the kids for longer times. I asked for 50-50 but ended up with 40-60 after a bitter mediation. We returned to talking about the kids and the conversation mostly ended after that. And that seems like it. I don't see the need for other updates. I doubt I will see much of my ex. The kids now adults are both doing their own things, have their own cars, and can visit their individual parents and siblings as they wish. There are no more visitation drop-offs between my ex and I. There will probably be college graduations and maybe eventual weddings, but beyond that our interactions are mostly finished. While we both had caused each other frustration, pain, and resentment over the years after the divorce, and I will always have my guilt for failing her in our marriage, in the end we successfully raised 2 happy children who are starting their own adult lives. Each of our lives took unexpected paths to get here, but we got here nonetheless and are proud our children made it through while feeling loved. My wife and younger kids are also happy and doing well. There are tons of updates with all them but those aren't relevant to this subreddit. I am not the to them, I'm just dad and husband, although sometimes they are embarrassed reluctant to admit to having those associations with me. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, I still do not understand you not moving to where your kids live to be able to get a better custody schedule. You describe it as a bitter mediation but you also say in the original post that the schedule wasn't 50-50 because you were too far away for day visits. Honestly sounds like you still want your ex to be a villain in that specific scenario since she very clearly isn't in every other aspect. I'm glad your ex seems to have made peace and seems to finally have the time to get her own proper social life, whoever Mark is to her, it seems he makes her happy. Good for her. Reply, I worked in a niche industry when we divorced which did not exist where her family lived. She was not working at this time so the only money that was being made was from my niche job which I had moved up in. I spent those first few years learning new skills to switch to a more prevalent but adjacent industry which had jobs nearer to my kids. During this time visitation was only weekends and a few weeks in summer because of how far I was. I eventually was able to move closer and by then was remarried, had a house that could fit my full family, and a work schedule I could adjust around my kids' schedules. I could support 50-50 visitation at this time, but my ex refused any change to visitation, both when I talked to her about it and finally when I went through my lawyer. She admitted now that she was still resentful at that time and that was her only reason to fight my request. She knew I made those changes to be closer to my children, and at the time didn't want to admit I was a good father to them. She may not have been a villain but she was, by her admission, reacting out of anger and not what was best for the children. I understand why she did it, but I was doing what I thought was best for the children. And based on where we all are now, it was the right decision. Commenter 1, that certainly changed from your original explanation. I tried to get more visitation as they got older but she fought back and due to them living too far for daily visits, I only got longer summers with them. This sounds like the court did not agree that you could easily support 50-50 due to the distance. Reply, there was no court review because we agreed to the new schedule in mediation. After moving closer I lived about an hour away. It would not have been easy to do overnight weekday visits due to school but it would be doable. Instead, I received more weekend visits, a longer summer, and many school holidays breaks. So not quite 50-50 for me, but it did result in less daily transition for the children. Other split families have been granted 50-50 visitation in these circumstances, but we avoided the court and came to an agreement in mediation. Neither of us were totally happy, hence bitter, but the kids ended up better off for it. There were many other concessions given by both of us in mediation which really aren't relevant to the story. In the end, this is what we agreed upon and the kids benefited. Commenter 2, bittersweet, OP. Thanks for the update. I'm glad you both moved on and hope the best for you and your families. Commenter 3, nothing changes for your ex. You will always be the AH to your ex-wife who chose not to change for her or your children. But hey, you don't have to worry about that anymore because you changed for another woman and her kids, and you have a happy marriage. Your apologies are basically worthless to her. Stories number 12. Aita for telling my GF I want a break after she cussed me out because I left her at my family reunion. I, 27M, have been dating Emma, 27F, for a year and 3 months. I can tell you I love her, but I have recently told her I want a break because of how she spoke to me, yelling and cussing me out. She's saying couples fight, and that's all it was. I don't know if I really want to feel this way again. Now she's telling me I'm the asshole for trying to walk away over a fight. I need advice because after 4 days, I'm wondering if I'm ending things too fast. A week ago today, I took my GF to my family reunion. The first one since COVID, and everyone showed up. My big family was all together. My GF would be meeting a lot of new people, but a few she's met already. Being at the reunion an hour, my GF and I were talking to my cousin 30F, who knew my GF from working together, so while those two were catching up, I saw an uncle I haven't seen in a while, so I went over and said hello. Talking with him for about 10 minutes, I kept turning around to see if my GF was still with my cousin, talking. My grandmother asked me to help carry 4 tables. I let my GF know I was going to carry 4 tables inside and asked if she wanted to come. She said no, she's fine talking to my cousin. I helped carry the 4 tables, then came back over to her. I was away no more than 10 to 15 minutes. As we made eye contact, I could see that she looked annoyed. As I walked towards her, she started walking towards an open sound away from anyone. As I walked up she said, "Why the fuck are you leaving me alone?" I said, "I told you I was carrying tables, and you were with my cousin, she's a familiar face." She said she saw other family and walked away to talk with them, so I'm standing here looking like a dumbass because you left me alone. I honestly never saw her so upset. She said, "If I had known you'll be leaving me alone, I would have stayed home." I said, "I'm sorry, I wasn't meaning for you to feel that way." I helped and came right back. She said whatever and walked back towards everyone. You could visibly see she was upset, and I asked her, "Please not here in front of my family." She said, "Take home then." I said, "Are you serious right now?" She started walking towards the car. Driving her home I said I was only gone 10 to 15 minutes. She said, "It doesn't matter how long you are gone, you left me alone looking like a dumbass." I felt so blindsided and in shock that things escalated this quickly. 30 minutes earlier, I was just carrying the tables in. At one point she was just yelling and going off, then she said, "You're acting like a dumbass, it's ridiculous." As she got out of the car, she said, "I'll call you when I'm ready to talk." I drove home in silence, confused about how we got here, and I'm wrong for leaving her and not thinking about how she'd feel. I do understand that, and I apologize. I thought she would be comfortable with my cousin. I didn't think that she walked away. My GF spoke to me like I was trash, and I'm not okay with it. Later that night I got a text from her best friend saying how I'm an asshole for leaving her and what was the point of bringing her. She told me my GF was upset and couldn't believe me. After 3 days of not hearing from her, I texted her a long message letting her know I love her, but I don't ever want to be spoken to like that by my partner. It's been 3 days and I haven't heard from you. I understand being wrong, but not hearing from you for 3 days is crazy. She called me, and when I answered, she told me I'm wrong for wanting to take a break because she's upset. She said, "You left me and you don't see the problem with that," and I told her, "It's how you spoke to me that's the issue. I didn't mean to have you feeling alone," but even after apologizing, you kept going. She said couples fight, and she can't believe I want to end things. I do care about her and love her, but for the past 3 days I've been thinking about how she spoke to me, sitting in that feeling, and not hearing from her didn't help. I sent texts and called her, but she didn't answer. I keep thinking about how she was just yelling and cussing me out. Am I the asshole for wanting to break up? Please, whatever advice is needed. Sorry for the long post. Commenters tell OOP to think hard how often something like this happened before in his relationship. Update. Hello, everyone. I was not expecting so many people to comment and give advice. Thank you, everyone. Honestly, I needed to hear some of these comments. A few of you said she's done this before in some way. I've never seen her that upset, it really threw me off, and for it to be the first time at my family reunion again, it threw me off. When she asked to leave immediately instead of us figuring out what was going on, I didn't think my family reunion was the place for us to have any type of back and forth, so of course, I took her home. I'm not someone who yells at my partner. My parents only communicated through yelling and random outbursts. I don't communicate that way and don't want a relationship like my parents. I'm 6 feet 2 inches 210 pounds, it doesn't look good for someone my size to be yelling at my partner. I don't ever want my partner to feel intimidated or unsafe from me yelling at her. A day after I posted, I texted Emma asking if we could talk. A few of you said she could have social anxiety that I didn't know about. I have a really big family, so I wanted to see if maybe that was it. I asked her did she had social anxiety. And she said no. I said help me understand, why were you so upset? She said I don't understand how uncomfortable it is to just stand around not knowing anyone, and I should have stayed around longer before leaving her. You should have said come with me while I move the tables. After she got done talking for about 5 minutes, I told her I'm done with this relationship. You came up with all these different scenarios I should have done, but here's one you didn't think about. Tell me that it made you uncomfortable being left alone, so I can be with you. I would have understood you only know 10 people out of 70 or 80 people, so I would have just walked you around meeting everyone. This was a moment I could have shown you that I care about your feelings, and you could trust it. My family is super inviting, and all she had to do was give it all a chance. It has all shown me that this isn't a relationship I want to be a part of, and I don't want to be in a relationship where my partner is justifying cussing me out. She started backpedaling and saying a lot of other stuff, but I told her I had to go, and good luck in life. I haven't spoken to her at all. I blocked her number and I blocked her friend's number. I want to find my partner, I want to be with someone who can talk to me and figure things out. I feel like that was an easy win for our relationship, but it went the way it did for some reason. I didn't miss out on the reunion, since it's been a while. Our reunion was the entire weekend. My grandparents have a farmhouse that sits on a lot of acres, so a lot of us camped out the entire weekend. The first day was us setting up our tents, the second day all the cousins, 20 to 40 years old, had a kickball tournament, and the third day we had a big fish fry. My family kept my mind busy those days, she wasn't speaking to me, and it helped me so much. I can't wait to have a partner I can share memories like this weekend with. Thank you for everyone who gave me advice. Stories number 13. Aita for leaving dinner with my parents after they called my girlfriend disgusting. Hi, I've been a lurker for a bit on this account, but I now have a situation I need to know if I'm wrong about. So, I, 32F, have been dating my girlfriend I'll call Ruby, 48F, for around 10 months. Yes, I'm well aware of our age gap. I'm a fully grown woman. I can make my own choices. Ruby treats me well, and she's been the first in a long string of shitty exes to do so. She is honestly an absolute angel. For some context, me and my parents, 67F and 65M, have never been close, as they honestly didn't really give a shit about me when I was a kid. I was always being handed off to nannies and ignored when I would try to play with them. They would always leave me behind with said nannies when they went on business trips and vacations, and then when I got older, they would just leave me all alone. It was a shitty way to grow up, but I've moved on from it. I can't let my childhood define my entire life. Once I moved out, we rarely talked besides holidays and birthdays. Anyways, in the past couple years, my parents have started reaching out more and trying to connect. I was a little weary at first, as I thought maybe they wanted something from me, but after feeling them out for a bit, I think they just feel bad for how they ignored me when I was young. I slowly started letting them into my life, and a few months ago, told them about Ruby. They immediately jumped into telling me how I'm too young to be dating someone so old and so on and so forth. I shut that down immediately. I told them they don't get to say stuff like that to me, ever. They can support me after all the stuff they pulled, or go away. That seemed to shut them up. Fast forward to last night, me, Ruby, and my parents all had dinner together. It was their first time meeting her. It was going smoothly up until Ruby pecked me on the lips before going to the bathroom. The second she was out of earshot, my mom just blurted out something like, "I can't exactly remember, Ruby absolutely disgusts us. She's disgusting." I didn't say anything, but I was just so stunned as they both started trying to explain that they can't accept this relationship or some bullshit. I barely remember, all I could hear was static. I flagged down our waitress, told my parents that we're leaving, and paid the bill as we all sat in awkward silence. I guess they didn't want to embarrass themselves in front of the waitress. I don't even know. By then Ruby was back, and she was totally confused. I explained everything in the cab home, and I honestly started tearing up a bit. I was finally starting to think I actually had parents, but then they go and say shit like that. Ruby was pretty shocked and comforted me. Now, my parents have been calling and texting me, scolding me for leaving like that, and saying that they just want me to date someone right for me. They even looped a couple aunts and uncles in, who never even really gave a damn about me ever, and have them telling me to answer my parents and apologize. Just need to know, was I wrong? Stories number 14. My 36F husband, 33M, found out his child never excited this weekend. In the most what the fuck moment of my life, my 36F husband Eric, 33M, found out his 12-year-old son does not exist. At all. This isn't a huge surprise, I'll get into that, but it's still shocking. I found this out over the weekend, Saturday afternoon, and have obviously been consoling and comforting my husband. I need to process this but also get advice on what the fuck to do, other than therapy, because it is literally where my husband is while I post this. When Eric was in college he did a study abroad in Europe and there he met Katie. Katie claimed to be from a very well-off family from Southeast Asia. My husband says he believes it is true because she had the spending habits and flat to prove it. After writing this out I feel like it's better to put this in a timeline. July 2012 to July 2013 Eric is living in Europe. Early September 2013, Eric receives a FB message from Katie informing that she is pregnant with his child and they have a conversation and she informs him she will be terminating the pregnancy. End of September 2013 Katie blocks my husband on every possibly form of communication he can get. At the time, he took this as she was upset about the situation and wanted zero contact. He was frustrated she never followed up and told him about the termination or how it went, despite the fact he asked, but moved on with his life. March 2016 Katie unblocks Eric and tells him that she's sorry for disappearing and that her family, who is very traditional, learned of her pregnancy and ended up bringing her back to their home country. She sends photos of a child and tells Eric that she couldn't go through with the termination and that they have a son. Katie tells Eric that she was seeing someone and that her boyfriend was raising the kid like his own. I would like to say, it was a very huge shock for my husband. He was 23 and fresh out of college. He's told me numerous times he regrets what I'm about to say. Eric tells Katie he's not interested in having a relationship with their son. He's willing to send money, medical documents, family information, but that he didn't find the need to be a part of the kid's life if there was a father figure there. Katie explodes on him and blocks him again. November 2016, Katie unblocks him again and apologizes for her actions. She says that if Eric ever wants to learn about their kid that she'll be waiting and that their child is amazing. From November 2016 to July 2018 they have monthly check-ins. They are not talking a lot but Eric knows about what is happening with his child and in Katie's life. Katie had always said that the child knew Eric was his father and that her partner was not. October 2017, I meet Eric on a weekday. We had our first date the following Friday and it was full steam ahead. I learned about Katie and the kid pretty early on but we didn't talk much about it. I asked him why he wasn't involved and he said that he was either in college or right out of college and didn't feel like it would be healthy for the child. Even though he was the child's dad, it didn't seem fair to explain to a young kid he was only going to be a dad through the phone. He didn't have money to travel and see the kid, until 2017. We live in America. He felt like Katie never seemed interested in having him personally involved in the child's life, so he kept it like it was. When I learned she never asked for money but just simply wanted to know about medical history I didn't find it that weird. Was it odd? Sure. But it didn't feel like a scam or anything. July 2018, Eric and I have a conversation about a timetable. During this conversation I bring up the question of kids and what does his life with his actual kid he has look like. I brought up the fact that maybe it was time for him to meet said child. We decided we would plan a vacation to Southeast Asia, see a few countries and have one of those stops be meeting his child. A few days later, Katie had reached out to Eric about something and Eric told her we were wanting to come. She got all defense saying I don't know her, you want to bring another woman around my child, you can't just pick when to be a parent, insult after insult, and then communication was just over. Blocked on every platform. When I went to go message her, I found that I was blocked on everything. So from here until the next time frame of when they talk, I'd just like to say my husband did try in many ways to get in touch with her. January 2019, Eric and I get engaged. July 2019, I get pregnant. I lost the baby, but this was a very hard time for Eric. Obviously miscarriages are hard for every father, but Eric told me that he felt like he was losing a kid all over again. Eric got very depressed and this is when he began therapy. Eric being upset me, and with that, the loss of a baby, and wedding planning, I finally confessed to my parents all of this. My parents knew about the kid but not all of it. My dad is a lawyer and is very well connected, and 2 days later I am sitting down for a lunch meeting with my dad, and his two buddies, one who is an immigration lawyer and one who is family law. They asked me 1,000 questions and the immigration lawyer asks if we have a birth certificate. I say no. He's asked if I've ever seen one, I said no, and he said then how do you know the baby exists? I think he said it as a half joke. But then he asked us why she had never asked for American citizenship for the child. I said I don't think she cares. And he informed me that the country Katie is from, even affluent people from that country, would be looking to get access to that citizenship for their child. Especially because in the long run it would help for family sponsorships. I do not know how true that is just what I was told. I go to a therapy session with Eric and explain this to him, and he basically tells me that he knows the baby is real and he doesn't understand why Katie is acting like this. And I just decided to let it go. September 2019, Eric and I get married. While on our honeymoon, Katie unblocks us and says, well, I guess we're all a family now, and communication begins to start back up. For about 2 months conversation are going great. Eric actually talks to his child and Katie invites us to come meet the child finally, but then COVID hits and we're stuck in America. During this time it's about the same as it always was. Katie checks in about once a month, but when we ask to talk to the child more, she says it's too confusing, he doesn't speak good English, time difference. I got pregnant April 2020 and we chose to not tell anyone outside of our parents and siblings. Didn't post about it. Didn't upload photos of the bump. Just chose to break the news with a picture of our son, born January 2021, and the caption survived the pandemic, now facing sleepless nights. I don't know the exact time we posted it, but if we posted it at like 10:15 a.m. by 10:30 a.m. we got a message from Katie saying how sick and twisted we were. Saying our caption proves how disgusting I am, making light of a pandemic that killed thousands of people, saying how awful I was for not telling her so she could prepare her son to become a big brother. And then the personal attacks on me saying some fucked up crazy shit. I, newly postpartum, tired of the drama, pretty sure the story wasn't adding up, wrongly, don't come for me Reddit, asked my husband to block her for just a few days. Eric does, and then a few days later when he thinks she's calmed down he unblocks her. They try to have a conversation, it doesn't end well, and Katie blocks my husband. We expected to have her unblock us at some point and we just waited, but she never did. Eric tried many times to get in contact but nothing. We kept living our life, had our twins boy and girl, October 2023. We thought we'd hear from her around then but we didn't. My husband spent a good chunk of time last year trying to find the child. We did end up going to Southeast Asia earlier this year to celebrate 5 years of marriage. We were there, with our kids, for 3 weeks and traveled all over. Eric tried multiple times to reach out and we hear nothing. Over this weekend, we get unblocked by Katie, and she starts off by apologizing and admitting she knows what she did was wrong. And the moment my husband read that out loud I knew where it was going. Sure enough, she cops to the fact she has major mental health issues and lied about the whole thing. She was never pregnant. She enjoyed their time together during their study abroad and didn't want to lose him and thought she could baby trap him. In her message she spoke about how when she told him about the baby, she thought he'd get on a flight back and be with her. When he made it clear he was more focused on partying than being a mom, that's when she blocked him the first time. She met someone else, we'll call him Jay, and then when Jay broke up with Katie, that's when Katie reached back out and said she had the baby. But she never did. She never was even pregnant. It was all a ruse. Jay was always the man we thought she was with. Turns out they broke up years and years ago and she's been lying to us about Jay. I don't know what to do. This is such a huge lie cover-up. I am concerned for my safety. I spent this morning deactivating mine and Eric's social media accounts. I feel as if she has been watching all of us for a long time and I don't even know what to do. My husband doesn't want our friends and family knowing just yet, which I am fine with, but I don't even know how to begin with that. If anyone has had a situation that matches this level of fucked up, obviously fake children in other countries is a niche problem, but this level of fucked up shit happens often. I need to know where to start. Where we go. What I do. What I can say. Any advice? TLDR, my husband met a crazy lady during his study abroad. She told him that she was pregnant and never was. For the last 12 years she's popped in and out of his life talking about a child that never existed. This weekend she admitted it was all a lie. Stories number 15. I'm dumping my disabled pregnant friend of 15 years. Yeah, I'm his asshole, but whatever. Here's the backstory, I guess, if you want it, well broken down. My friend fell pregnant at the start of last year. During that time she was having boyfriend troubles, he's dumped her and started dating his ex. Anyway, the ex dumped him and my friend took him back. He was meeting the ex behind my friend's back and she had a gut feeling, but he would say it's her autism and ADHD playing up, and yes, she believed it despite me trying to talk to her about it. He lives with his mother, doesn't have a job, and will happily tell you he never plans on getting one. I've known his family since we were nursery children. The mother is on government assistance and she had several children who are also on government assistance, and each one has more than 3 children. They are scroungers. They are all extremely fat and haven't worked a day in their lives. I mean, I'm mostly angry about this guy tbh. Despite her mental disabilities she works. I won't be specific about her job though. He absolutely leeches off her, she's paid for everything. My friend's family are also leeches, they've also never worked a day in their lives and have claimed just about everything they can. They'd make my friend eat bars of soap as a child for being bad. She was always hungry and ate at my house as kids, and went as far to say she really wished my mom was hers. And unbelievably my mother lost her children to social services because she's also a massive piece of shit. My friend's grandparents died and they left a decent fund for her, and her mother took the lot when she was old enough to receive it. Always promising to give it back, but that was 10 years ago. Anyway. We've had many chats since her pregnancy, early miscarriage. She's told me she can't afford a child, she also lives at home. I don't think she understands that when you have children they sort of become your world. What about my holidays? I want to save for that instead, or I want to do lots of holidays, but I don't want a baby with me. He also doesn't want children. Despite this they keep having sex without a condom, as she keeps telling me we forgot, it was my ADHD, we couldn't wait. I finally got angry a few months ago and kept trying to slowly cut her off. She messaged me last week that she's now pregnant. Right above that message she was crying because he didn't want to spend time with her, and it has been a while. I am so frustrated. No, her being pregnant is not my business, but when she comes to me about it, not much I can do. Their relationship is not my business, but she wants to talk about it. She's owned a few animals that have all died and I've found them dead in their cages, emaciated, just bones. Oh, they just died, no food or water in their cages either. I know what they died of. A baby is much more difficult than a small animal. I've loved her and we've had a lot of good memories together, but I just can't see her the same anymore. All those long conversations of trying to make her see sense wasted. Stories number 16. Aita for telling my parents they were deserved to be kicked out of my sister's wedding. So, my 37F, brother Mike 35M, is a knob. Always has been and always will be. He has been babied to the point of uselessness by our mom and dad, and that's made him an entitled slob. When he was younger he showed promise playing rugby, which had my mom and dad believing he was gonna be a superstar. The problem was though that he never had the work ethic to fully fulfill his potential. However, this meant that he was the golden boy of the family and he could do wrong in my parents' eyes. He was a bully at school, which they brushed off as other kids making up lies, but he was an even bigger bully at home to our younger sister Kelly 31F. He would constantly prank her. Which basically meant he would do anything he could embarrass her, including things like pulling her dress up in front of the whole family at a wedding when she was 15. Mom and dad just said it was siblings being siblings, but the rest of the family were mortified by his behavior. I did try and stick up for my sister and it worked to a certain extent, but after I went away to uni, there wasn't much I could do as mom and dad just don't listen to anyone. It got so bad that when she was 18, my sister gave up going to her dream university, St Andrews, and instead moved to London to go to the Imperial College London. This was a huge shock to all of us as she had been talking about St Andrews since she started high school at 11. When I asked why, she said that St Andrews was too close to home and she would be expected to go back home more often, but if she went to London she would only have to go home for Christmas. This broke my heart. After she left, she did exactly that. The only time she was home was Christmas and when I got married. This really annoyed mom and dad as they said she was abandoning the family. I kept my mouth shut and just let them whine occasionally as I didn't want an argument. After graduating from uni my parents expected her to move back home, but she didn't. She got a job working in southern England and stayed down there. We are from Scotland for reference. 6 years ago, Kelly met a great guy, Jake 30M. The day she met him she called me gushing about him and I've honestly never heard her speak about anyone the way she does him. I've met him several times when I've gone down to visit Kelly and he's great. Good looking, funny, great job, his family are lovely and most importantly, he treats Kelly like she hung the moon. It's very cute. After she met him, she cut down how much she came home even more as she spent the first Christmas with his family and then the pandemic happened so she ended up not coming home for 3 years. Her first Christmas home Mike started his usual bullshit, trying to be their center of attention. When it didn't work out as well as he wanted, as most of the family were more interested in getting to know Jake, he then tried to prank Kelly. He got a big bowl of water and was going to pour it over her. Jake saw what was happening and stepped in front of Kelly telling Mike to not even think about it. Side note, Jake is 6'3" and has been doing martial arts since he was 4, so he can be very intimidating when needed. Mom and Dad tried to play it off as a harmless prank, but Jake was having none of it. Mike started whining about it just being a prank and Jake told him that if he pranked Kelly one more time, he would prank Jake by putting his foot up his arse and his fist down his throat. Kelly and Jake left about an hour later, but after that Mike, Mom and Dad all had an issue with Jake. Kelly hasn't been back home since. That leads us to now, Kelly and Jake are getting married. They sent out invites in February for August. However, they didn't invite Mike. Mom and Dad are obviously incensed by this and had a huge argument with Kelly. They threatened not to go, and Kelly just said no problem she would get Granddad to walk her down the aisle. I went around to their house on Saturday with my kids. Immediately my mom started complaining about Kelly and the wedding. I sat and listened for a while before I'd had enough. I asked her what did she actually expect. Her and Dad have allowed Mike to be the golden child and get away with everything. Because of that, he can't keep a relationship, due to him thinking everyone should do everything for him. He can't hold down a job because every job is beneath him and he's still living at home with zero prospects in life. The man-child is a bully who I don't trust to be around my children unsupervised. He bullied Kelly for most of her teen years and her only escape was to move over 400 miles away and never come home. My mom got very quiet and then asked me to leave. A few hours later my dad called going mad because I'd upset my mom and was taking the side of an ungrateful little girl instead of my parents who gave me everything. This started a huge argument between me and him where I told him he'd been a crap dad to Kelly and didn't deserve to walk her down the aisle. I've just had enough, but now I've got extended family members telling me I've gone too far as my mom is barely speaking to anyone and keeps crying. My granddad said it was about time I told them off, but my grandma is upset by all the arguing. So Aita for telling my parents that they sucked a parents and deserve to be kicked out of my sister's wedding. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA sounds like they kicked themselves out. Commenter 2. The chickens have come home to roost. NTA. Although the really sad thing about this is that OP's stubborn, inept mother, having finally seen the truth about her bad parenting and destructive favoritism, is probably more concerned how she failed Mike, who is now worthless and unlovable, and by everyone's low opinion of her, than she is about how she mistreated her daughter all those years. Otherwise, she'd be asking her daughter for forgiveness. Commenter 3. NTA. If they can't stand the truth, they need to hibernate. I vote Grandpa walks her down the aisle regardless of who attends. Reply, my sister isn't changing her mind, they aren't going to the wedding no matter what. She only invited them as she thought it was the right thing to do in the first place. So, Granddad will be walking her no matter what. Commenter 4. Good to hear. The sexualized harassment your parents condone makes me sick. Yes, sexual. Undressing your sister in public is very much sexual. Ugh, boys will be boys my ass. NTA, obviously. She's lucky to have you. Please keep standing up for her. Commenter 5. NTA, your sister clearly picked a great husband to be though. Maybe you should join his family for future celebrations and leave those 3 to their own devices. Reply, we go to my husband every other year, so that might just become an every year thing. Commenter 6. If both daughters have a problem with them and they've been told their son is the golden child yet objectively doesn't have any attributes that can verify that he deserves that title, then the parents and the golden child are the problem. Pranks aren't ever funny, they're always mean at someone else's expense. If you ever speak with your parents again, ask them to name Mike's best attributes and most recent achievements or life goals. Then ask them to do the same with you and Kelly. They likely won't be able to give any for any of you, but you will be able to list off those for your and Kelly and then prove by comparison that Mike has none. And then you ask them the killer question, so why if Kelly and me are out in the big wide world making waves and kicking ass, why do you not support us and cheer us on, yet Mike does nothing except cause problems and leech off you and you support him? If you're going to go that far, I'd also ask if the Wills leave everything to Mike. Reply, I'm 99% sure that Mike is getting the house as he will need it. They've already hinted at this, so I've never thought I was going to get any inheritance. I know that to my parents my biggest attribute is that I've given them grandchildren. However, that's been wearing off the past few years as my kids don't like them, so they aren't getting the grandparents experience they wanted. Update. Hi all, that post took off a lot more than I thought it would. There was way too many comments for me to respond to, but I tried to read every one of them. I was asked for an update, so here it is. There were a few things that came up repeatedly, so I'll address them first. The pranks only started after I had left and gone to uni. He would say things to Kelly and I would have a go back at him when we were younger, but it wasn't anything more than that until after I'd left home, so there wasn't anything I could really do to stop it. I did speak to our parents, but they're useless. Second thing was about my kids. I didn't bring my kids around them very much as they didn't like going to my parents' house. They said it was boring and they don't like Mike. However, after all the comments I got about this, I sat them down and asked them again. For my daughter it really is just that she finds it boring and says that Mike is a weirdo. My son, however, said that he doesn't like being around my dad as he keeps trying to make him play rugby. I have heard these comments and told my dad to drop it, but he would still make the comments occasionally. I had no idea that it was upsetting my son though, so this surprised me. My son doesn't like sports, be it watching or playing. He's very much like his dad in that regard. He's a Pokemon kid, playing online and goes every Thursday evening to play in a tournament at our local card shop, so rugby is an absolute no-go for him. The third thing was about security at the wedding. I spoke to Kelly and Jake said that 2 of his groomsmen are police officers who are aware of the situation, so that won't be a problem. Lastly, there was a lot of comments about Mike being the golden child. For a bit more backstory, he wasn't really the favorite until his talent in rugby came to light. After that, he was special and had to be treated that way. I think he was seen as mom and dad's way of being special themselves within the family as they had such a super talented child. Anyway, today, I decided to sit down with my parents and tell them I needed a break from them. When I got there my dad immediately wanted me to apologize to my mom, but I said that wasn't going to happen. There was a bit of back and forth between him and I, until my mom stepped in and asked why I was there if not to apologize. I told them that I'd spoken to Kelly and she didn't want them at the wedding at all. That they needed to stay away and respect her decision. They weren't happy but said they wouldn't go where they weren't wanted. I then told them I wanted space until after the wedding as I couldn't keep being around them and keeping my mouth shut. I thought that space would be good for all of us. My mom wasn't happy and started on about seeing my kids. I told them the truth, my kids hated coming to their house and told my dad exactly why my son doesn't want to be around him. He got upset by this and said that rugby would be good for him. I shut that down and said I'm not going to force my son to do something he does want to and something I know he will hate. I also told him that if I hear him mention it around my son again then he won't see my son again. Right now they will only be seeing my kids at family events, so I'm hoping that it won't be a problem. I then asked them what their long-term plan was with Mike. Are they going to keep things the way they are until they're 90 and mom will still be making all his meals? What happens when they're gone, who will look after him because it won't be me? What happens if they get ill? Who will look after them? Mike is incapable, Kelly lives down south and I plan on moving back to my husband's hometown 3 hours away once the kids have left home, so I can't do it. They just looked at me blankly. I really don't think that they had ever even thought about any of that before. I told them they had set Mike up to fail and now they needed to deal with it. I also told them I knew that they were leaving everything to him in their will, but that with how they have babied Mike, he would blow through that money in less than a year and then what? I could see the panic in my mom's eyes when I said that. She either hadn't thought about it or she thought I would look after him, which she now knows isn't gonna happen. I also think she was shocked that I knew about their will. After me telling them what low contact with me was going to look like going forward and them not being happy about it, I left. Hopefully I've given them a lot to think about. I will check in with them from time to time, but that's all right now. I'm going to visit Kelly in the next couple of weeks, so I'm looking forward to that. My extended family have also backed off after I sent them all a text saying if they were so concerned about my mom then they could be her support system and deal with Mike the same way Kelly and I have had to for years. Not surprisingly, none of them wanted to. Otherwise, I'm going to just try and get on with things as normal. Thanks for the NTA verdict and all the advice, it opened my eyes to a few things that I've been brushing off. Comments. Commenter 1. I'm a Scotsman, I even play rugby, and I can confidently say there's nothing worse than a fucking arsehole rugger type. And your brother sounds like the worst of them on steroids. Commenter 2. I also told them I knew that they were leaving everything to him in their will, but that with how they have babied Mike, he would blow through that money in less than a year and then what? Some people inherit their parents' house, and through good financial planning and healthy financial habits, they managed to keep the house for future generations. Other people, after being cosset all their lives and being gifted a modest fortune or home, blow through it in a year, or 2 or 3, and end up having the property seized for failure to pay taxes, or for not keeping up the property, or it gets seized by the bank because the new owner decided to get a home equity loan for some quick cash and forgot to make the monthly payments. I would feel bad for your brother, but it's hard to do that for someone who still acts like a child as an adult. Commenter 3. How shameful of them to leave everything to one child, when they have 3 children and OP has children and the other is getting married and will most likely start a family soon. OP, please don't let them come crying to you if they need any elder care in the future. Mike can take care of them. Stories number 17. Is it worth it to try to work things out with my boyfriend, who is jealous of my stepbrother? My boyfriend, 19M, and I, 19F, have been dating for just over a year. We're both in university, and currently taking online classes due to the lockdown. When they announced the transition to online classes, I decided to move back to my mom's, about an hour and a half away. My town is a bit of a student town, there aren't many grocery delivery services and I don't drive. I didn't want to rely on the reduced bus service. My BF tried to convince me to move in with him, but I refused because I didn't like the idea of being an illegal tenant in a house with 4 guys and 1 bathroom. My BF was not happy with this. I've been back for 3 weeks and things have been tense, especially surrounding my stepbrother, 22M. My mom remarried when I was 15 and she moved her new husband and his son in. I've known stepbrother, SB, for 5 years and our relationship was always friendly but distant. He's lived at home the entire time, and worked as a bartender prior to the quarantine. Ever since I moved back, BF has been on my case about spending too much time with SB. He gets really upset because we drive around aimlessly every day, I'm on a learner's permit, and SB is helping me practice while the streets are empty, and the fact that we hang out and watch stuff together. Heather weather was nice this week, and SB and I decided to eat our lunches in the backyard, picnic style. BF freaked out when he realized, accused me of going on quarantine dates behind his back. I didn't even tell him this, I guess he stalked SB's Instagram story. And it wasn't a date, we are going into week 5 of quarantine, bored out of our minds and doing anything possible for a slight change of pace. BF called me yesterday and told me that he was unhappy, felt disrespected and that I needed to make a change to keep the relationship. He told me that SB and I are not like regular siblings, we didn't grow up together and so he's afraid things will escalate between us. I think this is gross, SB is not someone I would ever consider dating and I'm certain he feels the same. BF told me that I would need to stop hanging out with SB and spend more time FaceTiming and texting. Currently we FaceTime every day, minimum 1 hour, but he said his ideal would be 3 to 4 hours. I think this is crazy, and part of me wants to tell him to shove it. But we had a great relationship before this and another part of me wants to fight and save it. I know my BF and I'm fairly sure he is acting like this because he's still upset that I didn't move in with him. But it's going on week 4 and I'm not sure how much more I can handle. What should I do? TLDR, moved back home for the lockdown and my boyfriend is acting possessive and jealous over me spending time with my stepbrother. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Dude, you're finally seeing who your boyfriend really is. He wanted you to live with him so he could monitor you. Reply. I didn't even consider this but you may be right. When we've fought about this, he has alluded to feeling like the situation was out of his control. Commenter 2. Well, he made it easy for you to see that he is an immature person who is jealous and controlling. Yes, tell him to shove it because he will never shut up about this. He is going to be jealous of your SB forever. SB isn't going anywhere so imagine listening to this crap for years to come. No. Reply. As stupid as this sounds, I didn't even consider the fact that he will always be like this. So far, the thing keeping me from ending it is the idea that quarantine is temporary and we will go back to normal when this is done. But you're right, there's no guarantee he won't be jealous after the fact. OOP when asked if her BF knows why she didn't move in with him for quarantine. Thank you for taking the time to write all this out. I think he does understand why I didn't move in with him, especially since it could land me in trouble with bylaw. Would count as a gathering now that one of the roommates brought his girlfriend over, subject to a fine of like $800. I think he wanted us to be one big quarantine family, and have parties and whatnot together. He assured me that we could skirt by undetected, but I really didn't want to chance it. I also didn't want to be that person, you know. I think taking a break to clear my head is a great idea. I'll tell him this. He won't like it, but his reaction will determine what I need to do. Update. After I posted, I took some time to read the comments and form a plan. I texted BF, telling him essentially that I needed a bit of space to take a breather and reevaluate. I made it clear that I didn't want to break up, but felt like I was always being monitored and I wanted to make a game plan to have healthy communication through this pandemic. He called me super upset and accused me of choosing SB over him. I told him that it wasn't about SB, it's not like I chose SB, he's literally just someone I get along with who I can hang out with during the pandemic. I explained to him that it was not like I was spending every waking moment with him, I do my homework in the morning, we hang out in the afternoon, and my evening time is divided between the four of us, mom, stepdad, SB, and FaceTiming BF. BF then accused me of doing special, boyfriend activities with SB. He told me that it was always his dream to teach me to drive, he doesn't even have his permit. Am I supposed to wait around for him to get it? Also apparently me teaching SB how to bake bread. Which is stupid because I was going to make the bread to begin with, and SB helped by moving the heavy mixer, eating half the almond slices, and taking pictures for Instagram. He also screamed at me for not moving in, saying how all this would have been prevented if we were living together. I told him that I have no interest in living somewhere that I'm not allowed to be. I can't afford a fine from bylaw, and if I were to get kicked out, it would be more difficult to find my way home since I don't drive. In the end, I told BF that I would not give up my relationship with SB, who is part of my family and a genuinely nice guy, to ease my BF's insecurities and cater to his demands. I told BF that I needed time to cool down, and that I'd talk to him in a few days. That was all on Friday, and today I reached out to see how he was. He was still pissed at me and accusatory, so I basically told him that this wasn't working and I want to break up. I did it over text and then blocked him, which probably makes me an asshole, but I literally couldn't deal with any more of him yelling at me and insulting my family. Anyway, thanks to everyone who commented. I'm really sad this is the outcome and I've been crying a lot, but I'm also kind of relieved. TLDR, we broke up because he couldn't see how controlling he was being. Stories number 18. Is it fair for my ex-wife to take me back to court to change our custody and support agreement? Custody, divorce and family. I live in Texas and have 4 kids. For almost 2 years, my ex-wife and I have had a 50-50 custody arrangement, we alternate weeks, and everything is written in our final decree of divorce. I currently pay $800 in child support each month, even though neither of us is the primary parent and we both have equal rights when it comes to the kids' medical care and schooling. Now she's taking me back to court asking to increase child support to $1,290 a month, limit my time with the kids to weekends only, and give her exclusive rights to make decisions about their healthcare and school. Has anyone gone through something similar? What could be her chances of getting these changes approved, and how should I prepare? I'd really appreciate any insight. Edit for more context. Earlier this school year, I got a new job that made morning school drop-offs hard during my weeks with the kids. My ex and I verbally agreed that the kids would stay at her place during my weeks, but I still picked them up Friday to Sunday as scheduled, and Monday through Thursday I'd get them after school, take them out to eat, spend time with them, and return them before 6 p.m. This was only temporary. At the end of January 2025, I found reliable transportation. My brother now helps with drop-offs, so the original 50-50 custody schedule, including overnights, resumed and has been consistent since then. I was served with court papers in mid-February, even though we were already back to the agreed schedule by then. We had mediation just last week, but my ex refused to negotiate. So now we're going to court, even though I've stayed fully involved and haven't missed a single child support payment or exchange. Kids' ages range between 8 to 14. Stories number 19. Aita for leaving my brother bachelor party. My 24M, brother, 30M's bachelor party was about a week before his actual wedding, and he is getting married in about 4 days just to give some timeline. Okay, so. My brother bachelor party, that I did not plan, his best man did, is located at a strip club. The whole thing is at a strip club. I didn't know where we were going before this because I was kept in the dark and invited last minute. I have told my brother very openly that I would not go to a strip club because I am not comfortable with it, and my girlfriend wouldn't want me to either, and in respecting her boundaries, I said I would happily go if his party was at a bar or if we just hung around doing stuff he likes. He agreed and said he could do that, then I never got an invite. I was pretty okay with it because I just thought he was going to a strip club for what he likes to do, and I don't have to be part of it. Then 2 hours before his party he tells me to meet him at his house and me and his buddies will go somewhere. He stated it would not be a strip club. Eventually we get to the place and, it is in fact this strip club, but not just a strip club, it's like a place where you can rent a room. I basically told him that I respect his choice and this is between him and his fiance, but in my relationship with my girlfriend and our boundaries, I don't feel comfortable going inside but I can wait in the car. He keeps telling me to come in and stop killing the buzz I say I want, and he eventually goes inside with his friends. 10 minutes goes by and I'm listening to music and he knocks on the window to let him in. I unlock the door and he brings in one of the ladies from the club and tells me to drive them somewhere. I exited the car by this point and said once again that I'm not comfortable with this and, his best man, can drive him. He keeps telling me I'm being selfish on his last day of freedom. Keep in mind he is basically flammable by this point. I just try explaining that these are my boundaries and I can leave if I'm really affecting his party that much. He said that I shouldn't do that because I'm the designated driver, and that would be worse. I basically said okay, but I'm not driving his hooker. Poor choice of words I know, but then he told me to stop being a pussy. I told him that I was leaving and I can get an Uber for him if he needs, but he was really angry and said I should go, so I did. The next morning he keeps texting me about how selfish I was, how much I ruined his night, and that I should go to hell for what you, me, have done to your own brother, him. And when we met up in person, he kept hinting at how much I ruined the mood and that it was the worst bachelor party ever, and called me a asshole for not being there for him. And abandoning him. So, Aita, in this situation, I don't think I am, but should I have not left? Update. I read a lot of these comments, and you guys made great points on why I should tell his fiance. I don't know why I thought she must have known he went to a strip club when I even didn't. And if you are wondering, yes, my girlfriend knows about the strip club thing and I explained it. We also thought that telling his fiance is the correct choice, especially because my brother and her have been together for 5 years. I'm really shocked he would destroy his relationship like this. I texted her, his fiance, and asked if it was okay with her for my brother to go to strip clubs. She said, and I quote, "Fuck no, well shit. I'm gonna sit down with her and discuss it today. We are meeting up later today." Further update coming soon. End of update. New update. I sat down with his fiancée and basically told her everything, about the stripper, the lying about it, and the woman in the car. She barely spoke, I don't blame her, and got really quiet, then started crying. She then got angry and called my brother to come home because they need to talk. We waited like 30 minutes while she stayed sitting looking red as a hot iron or something. He came home and she just blew up. She started yelling at him, telling him he's a fucking piece of shit, and she said the one thing he can't do is go to a strip club. Apparently he has cheated on her in the past. I did not know that. I left at that point, but my brother kept telling me to stay. I was like, no. And was about to leave. I know it seems like I'm leaving quite a bit in this post. She then told me she wants me to stay for her safety, so I waited in the other room. They were full on yelling at the top of their lungs about cheating, betrayal, someone named fucking Mia. And apparently my brother has a STD. Like, what the fuck is happening? I'm sitting in the room and they are still going at it. This is more just to put it out here. I'm guessing there is not gonna be a wedding, but they are still fighting. Forgot this edit. For some reason OOP felt like he needed to address this. Edit. I realize that some people are saying that I should work with MY boundaries, and don't base my opinions on my girlfriend. Strip clubs are something I am uncomfortable with, and in my relationship with my girlfriend we have said that neither me or her will participate in anything like a strip club. I am respecting my relationship's boundaries as well as my own. The reason I felt it was important to state my girlfriend was uncomfortable as well is because it doesn't just concern me anymore. If it was me as a single guy, I probably would have been more inclined to stay in the parking lot until they were ready to go, disregarding my own discomfort, for my brother's sake. But because it was also a set-in-stone boundary in my relationship, that was a no-go, and there was no doubt of me leaving. Especially because he brought the stripper into the car, I would have left even if my girlfriend had no boundary. Stories number 20. Aita, for saying my brother shouldn't have brought his pregnant GF to my wedding and for refusing to let her be in my wedding photos. I got married last weekend. I'm still so pissed off at what my brother did. He took all of the attention off of me and my husband. Normally, I don't feel the need to be the center of attention, but this was my freaking wedding day. I feel like it's all anyone was talking about during the wedding, and now it's like the main thing any of them even remember from the entire thing. It was a destination wedding within the US, so nothing crazy. We kept the guest list to our families, immediate and extended, as well as closest friends. My parents paid for our immediate family to arrive about 5 days ahead of time. So, it was my parents, my sister, and I initially, and my brother arriving a few days later. We knew my brother was bringing a date. No big deal. He said he was just bringing a girl from school. He didn't even call her his girlfriend officially. My parents showed up at the airport to pick my brother up, and there he was, hand in hand with an obviously pregnant girl that none of us have ever met. My parents were obviously taken aback. My brother greeted them like everything was normal, according to my mom, and my parents didn't really know what to do or say. Then he just said surprise. My poor mom almost fainted and claims my dad yelled out, "WTF have you done?" He introduces us to this girl, but doesn't clarify if she's his girlfriend and doesn't give us much info at all really. It was very weird. It was obvious that she was uncomfortable. She said she wasn't feeling well and needed to go lay down after the flight. So, at dinner it was just our family as she was resting. We were all awkwardly sitting around the table eating dinner, barely saying a word. My mom finally says, "Brother's name, is that your baby?" By then we all assumed it was, but my mom needed confirmation. The lack of any real explanation or details from him up until then was just odd. He admitted it's technically not his baby, but he's in love with her and intends on being a father to the baby anyway. The actual father isn't involved and doesn't want to be, and if they get married then he can adopt the baby so he'll legally be the father. She's living with him and none of us knew this either. He's been her main support person throughout the entire thing. She's 28 weeks, well 29 now since this was over a week ago. I think this was worse than what we had all assumed. So in love with her that he's going to take on the responsibility of her child and marry her, yet we've never even heard of her. He said he has mentioned her quite a few times. Well, maybe he's mentioned her name in passing, not to me, maybe to my parents, but never said she was his girlfriend or pregnant. None of us understand. He's 21, about to graduate college, planning to enter law school next, and he's an attractive guy. Why would he do this? My parents, especially my mom, were stressing out about it all weekend long throughout my entire wedding weekend. It was like my wedding became an afterthought. All my parents could talk about was how to make my brother change his mind about this girl. Then, when the wedding photographer was taking family pictures, he wanted her in them. That was really the breaking point for me. She isn't family. None of us knew about their relationship, and we met her 2 days prior. She shouldn't be in our official family pictures from my wedding. It's like forget the bride and groom, look at random heavily woman hitching herself to my brother. No, I told him no. I refused to let her be in the photos. My mom made me allow her to be in one picture, but said we don't have to buy that one or put it in display anywhere. It just made my blood boil. Anyway, I don't think he should have brought her. There was no reason to bring her to my wedding, especially without warning. I mean, it's all my side of the family could talk about and he was reticent to even correct them about it not being his baby. He said that's because it was awkward for her to have to explain the full scenario to everyone, so he just let people think what they wanted. Because he wouldn't at least say something, everyone was gossiping and wondering about it the whole time. I'm posting this because I'm upset that several friends and even my own mom are telling me I'm overreacting and just need to accept it. When I told a group of my coworkers about it after the fact, they weren't at the wedding, they agreed with me and thought what my brother did was absolutely insane and rude. Some of comments. Commenter, yeah, this is a wild story and your brother was absolutely in the wrong. He should have definitely explained who he was brining and what the circumstances were. Reply, he had months to tell us about what was going on. Months. He didn't have to wait and surprise us all on my wedding week. Commenter, downvoted, ESH you're being an AH for emphasizing how your brother ruined your wedding instead of being concerned about how your brother could be ruining his life. It's not like the poor expectant mother wore a white wedding dress and made an announcement at the reception. It's also an AH move of your brother to spring this major life consequence by surprise on everyone at your wedding. Reply, oh I am concerned about him ruining his life. It's almost all my parents could talk about all weekend. We all think he's insane and that this will be a gigantic mistake. In her defense, she seemed very uncomfortable the entire time and I don't think she wanted to be there. I think my brother may have forced this on her as well. To a comment, I don't think I would have been so upset about her presence if we had just known ahead of time. He had months to tell us what was going on. There's no reason he had to spring it on us and our entire family at my wedding. Commenter, NTA for the fact that you wanted your wedding to be about you, but YTA for the way you talk about this whole situation. Your brother is a very nice man for wanting to step up in that baby's life and the way you said that he could pull anyone but chose her like she's a monster or SMTH really made my blood boil. Reply, he's 21 years old. He shouldn't be doing this to his life. He didn't get her pregnant. Commenter, doing what to his life? He wanted to step up and that's not a bad thing. He's an adult, he likes her, she wants to keep the baby so there's nothing you can do. Maybe he knew this would be the reaction of the family and that's why he didn't tell about her sooner. It was a very bad move to introduce her at your wedding though. He can still have an amazing future whilst being a step-adoptive father. Single moms deserve a partner too. Reply, do I really need to explain the what? He's 21. This decision could affect the entire trajectory of his life. It's like he's cleaning up somebody else's mistake and he's going to suffer because of it. Commenter, a lot of people are being kind of rude to you here and I don't think that it's warranted. The way your brother went about this was in very bad taste. He should have brought her way in advance to introduce her to the family. But at this point, what's done is done. Move on, forgive your brother and support his decision to step up to the plate and adopt this baby. I have a good friend who was very pregnant, her husband filed for divorce and took off. She met a wonderful man who saw her through the last of her pregnancy and adopted the baby as his own. They've now been married about 40 years. Reply: if he wasn't 21 and still in college, I might feel differently regarding his decision. I wouldn't feel differently about the way we found out, but I might be more supportive in general if circumstances were different. OOP replies to another comment. He's graduating in a few months. He was planning to go to law school immediately following, but now he's hinting that he'll delay that since he'll obviously need to have a full-time job to support a baby. Oh, and she took a leave of absence from school due to her pregnancy, so he'll need to support her while she goes back. He hasn't outright said he's going to delay his plans, but he's dropped several hints. He can't even fully support himself now. My parents pay for much of his life. So, if they continue to do that, they'll be paying for this girl and her baby too. It's not fair to do to our parents. Commenter: NTA. What he did was an move, though he probably didn't think it through enough to realize all the implications of his actions. He absolutely shouldn't have dropped that bomb at your wedding or any wedding. Reply: I don't think he did it to be malicious. I don't think he thought about what he was doing to me. He also hasn't apologized though. If after being told something you did was rude and hurtful, at least own up to it. Brother's girlfriend. He said they were friends for 2 years, but it didn't turn romantic until after she was pregnant. Top commenter: I think he knew in a wedding setting that attention would be divided. Your wedding was his meat shield. Reply: interesting take and something I hadn't thought of. He was purposely trying to take attention away from me and my wedding. He just wanted some of the attention taken off of him and his poor decisions. Still selfish. Commenter: NTA. If he has gotten away with a lot, then he definitely knew what he was doing. And the fact that you told him how you felt after your wedding and he hasn't apologized yet, just hammers at home, but he doesn't give ass. He sounds like a selfish, self-centered asshole. I'm curious as well, because you mentioned that you and your sister never got away with anything compared to what he gets away with. In a different comment, could it also be the fact that he's the son? Because that would be even shittier of your parents to enable that kind of behavior from him. Reply: my parents pay for where he lives, and for where his girlfriend is now apparently living. I asked them if they were going to stop paying and they said, well, we can't make them homeless. They also paid for a huge chunk of his college tuition. They paid for a small fraction of my tuition and told me if I wanted to move out of the dorms I would have to pay for that myself. I did move into an apartment with a boyfriend eventually, but my parents didn't help out. My mom criticized me for living with my boyfriend without being married, and we couldn't even afford furniture. They say they were just in a better financial position by the time my brother went to college, and they admitted they should have helped me more and just didn't realize. They learned from their mistakes and decided to do things differently once my brother went off to school. But, they did pay for a lot of my wedding. My husband and I also contributed financially to the wedding. Commenter: but again, meeting entire family first time at a wedding is just a disaster waiting to happen if you are pregnant and not even by your partner. Reply: he asked us not to tell anyone the truth about him not being the father. I respected that. Well, I told my friends, but I didn't tell anyone in our family. Even though I was annoyed, I still followed his wishes. Commenter: you are NTA. Not only was your brother an to you and your husband on your wedding day, he was also potentially an to his GF. Did she know that none of you had no idea she existed? Imagine meeting your BF's family for the first time and they didn't even know you existed. Reply: I don't know how aware she was of the fact none of us knew anything about her. Update post: I think I might be about to do what I'm assuming very few people come here to do. I'm sharing an update and want to say that in hindsight I think I was actually the asshole in my situation. You can see my original post on my profile. I think I was riding high on wedding hormones and center of the universe vibes at the time, but I've slowly come down to earth in the many weeks since I last posted. I let my worry about the gossip about my brother and his girlfriend get in the way of me enjoying my day, and there's no way to go back and change it. I also realized that I should have just agreed to do one photo with his girlfriend included. One photo wouldn't have been important and it didn't have to be considered the official photo of me and my family that I put in my wedding album or hung on the wall. Instead, I chose to be a witch to somebody I was meeting for the first time and we already felt very uncomfortable. For many weeks after I made my first post, I was sure I was not the asshole. My he has deflated and I've had a talk with my brother about it. We both came to the conclusion that in our family we didn't really learn how to have difficult conversations about things that we knew might make somebody else uncomfortable, which is why I couldn't calmly voice my feelings to my brother on my wedding day and instead acted like a spoiled child. It's also why instead of having a normal conversation with our parents to let them know that he was dating somebody who was pregnant by somebody else and that he was going to be raising this baby as his own, he panicked and decided to just announce it without actually having to voice it to them at all, and my wedding just so happened to be the first occasion he had to do so. I don't think he mentioned to hurt me. Several people have asked me about an update on my brother and his girlfriend. Well, she's his wife now. They got married. They're still together, living together. We've gotten to know her a little better and she's not as bad as we all wanted to make her out to be. I think she genuinely loves my brother and my brother loves her, she just so happened to be pregnant when they met and they both acknowledge it's a bit unusual. My brother is the type who brings all the stray animals home, so I think we all sort of worried that he just felt bad for her and wanted to help her and protect her, but I think it's more than that. I went to her baby shower. She seems perfectly normal and nice, and really crazy about my brother. The baby was finally born at 41 weeks and of course my brother was there. The baby is several weeks old now. Half the time I forget that the baby isn't actually my brother's baby and isn't actually related to us by blood. After my wedding, my parents started to get more concerned about the whole situation with my brother. My mom became the most judgmental one. My brother talked to our dad and eventually got him to realize that my brother is an adult and he's going to do what he wants to do. Eventually my dad was like, "You're right, and I'd rather just support you here." My mom couldn't get on board. She wouldn't let herself even give his girlfriend wife a chance. She convinced herself that my brother was just being manipulated and taken advantage of by this evil woman. She told everyone that too. So things were sort of tense because I felt somewhat in the middle at that point. But now, my mom has been the only person to babysit since the birth. It's like she saw the baby and forgot all about everything and she's all buddy-buddy with his wife now. I'm shocked that this woman has decided to not completely cut my mom out of the baby's life altogether, but perhaps she's a bigger person than all of us. Some of comments. Commenter, geez, did you just really compare a pregnant woman your brother chose to date with stray animals people bring home to rescue from the streets? You really are TA, aren't you? Damn. Reply, that's not really how I meant it. Separate comment. My brother has a big heart and can't resist helping somebody who he determines is in need. We worried about whether he was genuinely with her because he was in love with her or if he was with her because he felt bad about her situation and had convinced himself he was in love with her. This is how we sort of looked at the situation previously, not currently. Commenter, I knew exactly what you meant, and it's not like humans are any better than any other animal. A stray is a stray, human, canine, feline, doesn't matter. Reply, no, it's the opposite, animals are better than humans. I don't see animals as inferior to humans, so I really didn't mean it as an insult. I for one could only dream of being as beautiful and loyal as a dog. Commenter, I don't understand why people want to use major family events for big rollouts, long-lost relatives reappearing, estranged parents showing up with new partners, proposing, or in this case, the OP's brother debuting a new relationship. Other people's events just aren't the time. Reply, in this case, it was because he just couldn't figure out a way to say it beforehand. Sure, I think if you've taken on the responsibility of becoming a parent you should have the balls to have that uncomfortable conversation with your own parents, but at the same time, after reflecting, I've done similar things, never during another person's big event, when it comes to not being able to tell my parents something I know they'll be upset about. In our family, growing up, all three of us have pretty much always done what our parents expected of us and wanted us to do. Commenter, he showed his immaturity by injecting an emotional bomb into his sister's wedding. Sorry his now wife didn't see the need to avoid the scene the two of them created. You can shock slap a family with such news without raining on your sister's parade. Reply, he wasn't completely honest with her about it and she thought we knew more than we actually did. She didn't find out the truth until they were ready on their way, and he convinced her everything would be fine. She didn't want to come. Commenter, I still think you're NTA and that your brother was an immature idiot to announce things the way he did. It was unfair to everyone, including his then-girlfriend. Weddings are stressful and highly emotional already. I can't think of anyone in my life would handle that news well with the way it was presented. But it is lovely to see that everyone has mended fences and is loving the new baby. It's the best possible update. Reply, I'm not denying that what he did wasn't really the best way to go about it. He was still an idiot, but I can sympathize with how he felt about not being able to tell our parents. I also feel that I could have communicated my feelings in a better way. I could have been honest without acting like a brat myself. Our family only has room for so many of those. Commenter, I don't know why you think you were an AH. You weren't. Just because you have since reconciled and are happy with how things have turned out doesn't mean that what your brother did was in any way acceptable, or that your completely justified reaction to what he did was wrong. It wasn't. Don't rewrite history, you'll do both of you a disservice. You'll pretend that you were in the wrong when you weren't. It's okay for him to have been an AH. Reply, I think I could have reacted differently, been honest about my feelings and story up for myself without letting the whole thing eat me up and secretly want to explode. Commenter, okay, I'll be blunt and say that this is the most 180 of 180-degree turns. I don't think the original OP was the TA because I don't think the author of this post is the first OP. It doesn't even read like the first post. Reply, it's me, the same person. Haven't you ever had a chance to look back on something you did in hindsight? I don't know, maybe this sounds bad, but now that the wedding is behind us I just sort of feel like it wasn't as important as it felt like at the time. The world continues to spin. Commenter, you are not the AH and never were. Your brother was an inconsiderate AH for doing that to you and your family gaslit you into believing you're a bad person for being upset about it. I hope you come to realize that you did nothing wrong by being upset after all and you choose to cut these people out of your life before they make you think you're in the wrong for being rightfully upset about this kind of stuff again. Reply, thanks, I guess. I don't know, I don't feel like I've been gaslit. Strangely, my husband is now more upset about it now than I am. He didn't even really seem to care about it when it happened, but he makes comments about my brother's move. Commenter, didn't he originally say they had been friends for 2 years prior to their romantic relationship? But now you say she was pregnant when they met. Reply, he admitted he lied about them being friends for 2 years. He didn't plan to lie about it but when he saw our reactions it just sort of came out in an attempt to make him seem slightly less crazy. They met when she was already pregnant, she had just found out basically and apparently was upfront with him about it. In a way I find that slightly better than her having known him for 2 years and suddenly being romantically interested in him once she found herself single and pregnant. It was almost a relief to find out it was a lie. Why brother and Sal got married? They were married before the baby was born specifically so he could put his name on the birth certificate and naturally be presumed the father by law. Commenter, I have to agree with this take. I'm a married woman but I'm not big on weddings, yet even I feel like any bride in this situation would have every right to be upset and refuse to include this person in professional photos. Beyond that, the whole situation with the brother and his now wife is abnormal. I can't think of many men, especially a young college-aged guy with plenty going for him, making a decision like this. The family has just gotten over him dropping out of school when he was probably almost finished to support a woman and a baby that isn't even his. Most families would be disappointed enough if it was actually his screw-up and his baby, but to willingly do this to himself is just not something I can imagine most families being supportive of. I don't have kids, but I feel like I'd be furious if this was my son. Reply, I can agree that his decision is very unusual. It's not something I'd advise anyone to do. But he's an adult and we can't make his decisions for him. We grew up having all our decisions made for us, and I have a lot of resentment for it. So, if this blows up then at least it was his own decision. He didn't drop out of school. He graduates this month. He's putting off law school. He was supposed to go straight into law school but he's postponing that so she can support her while she finishes school. I think we're all concerned he won't ever go to law school now, and he'd really been set on it before. Maybe he secretly doesn't want to go but again doesn't know how to tell my parents. I also think we're all still worried about how much more difficult he's made his life as a young adult just graduating school. He can't just be concerned with finding a job and doing all of the other things a new college grad does. I definitely hate the thought of seeing him struggle, but he says this is what he wants to do. There's no guarantee this relationship will last. We're not taking bets on when it'll end, but realistically they've been together less than a year and now there's a baby in the mix so time will tell how well they can handle it all together. Stories number 21. Aita for yelling at my fiance after he destroyed my project because I chose work over a party. My fiance's best friend celebrated his birthday last night at an exclusive restaurant. He wanted me so much to go with him, but I needed to complete a critical work project. I told him that I was on a deadline and if I did not get it done, I might miss an opportunity for promotion. He wasn't pleased and informed me that it was not acceptable because all his friends would have their girlfriends with them. As he left, he grumbled, I just hope it's worth it, and walked out. I attempted calling him, but he did not pick up. I finished my project and then showered. On returning, he was seated quietly in the lounge. I went up to complete my work, only to find that my whole laptop had been cleared, my project was erased. I was stunned. I questioned whether he did it, and he confessed, explaining we were now even since I humiliated him by not accompanying him and forcing him to arrive alone. I lost it. I yelled at him and told him that he was insecure for being more concerned about appearances than my career. He said it was somewhat my fault and that I should have just gone along with him. Things escalated, and he told me to quit calling him petty and insecure. He then left and stayed at a hotel. He's been sending me texts non-stop, telling me I hurt him with what I said and that I didn't care about his feelings. I believe being in a relationship doesn't mean I have to attend every event. He thinks it's disrespectful and socially rude to let him go alone unless I'm seriously sick or out of town. Stories number 22. Aita for refusing to go to my brother's wedding to attend the wedding of my sister-in-law instead. Hey! I, 25F, moved to France from my home country of Sweden 7 months ago after me and my husband, 27M, got married. I've never really got along with my parents. My dad had a temper growing up and would often shout at me and demean me, and my mom was very emotionally manipulative, constantly finding reasons to argue with me and point out things I've done wrong, even often being critical of my appearance. Meanwhile my brother, 24M, was treated like the golden child that couldn't do anything wrong. On the other hand, my husband's family have always been so kind and welcoming to me, and to be honest they feel like more of my family than my own. Since the move, things have only gotten worse. My mum insists calling every 2 days, and we're often on the phone for like an hour at a time. She's obviously upset that I chose to leave home, and I do feel guilty for not being able to help around the house like I used to. She's always insisting we travel to Sweden for any event, and since we moved to France 7 months ago I've already traveled to Sweden 5 times, which is really stressful and expensive. When I do go home she's really critical of me and my husband, and even his family. So, on to what has happened recently. My sister-in-law announced her engagement and asked me to be a bridesmaid. I was so excited. My husband was also asked to be a groomsman. She told us the dates for the wedding, next summer, and we had no plans for then, so it was perfect. When my mum called me, video call, I told her because I was excited, but she just went silent and clearly looked upset, so I started speaking with my dad. Fast forward to recently, I traveled back to Sweden to see my family for Easter. During dinner time, my brother announced his own engagement. I was and am so excited for him. Later on that day we were talking about dates, and he and his fiance had nothing in mind yet. I said me and my husband would be available whenever, the only date that doesn't work is the weekend of my sister-in-law's wedding. My mum butted in then and said that it depends on venues and things, but that they would try. So, I got a text in our family group chat yesterday from my brother announcing the dates to us. Apparently they all went to a venue and picked out the date together, and they told me that the dates are the same dates as my sister-in-law's wedding. Like, same day and everything. I was devastated. I wasn't thinking straight, and I told them I wouldn't be coming, that I said the date doesn't work. My mum then sent a horrible message, saying that it doesn't matter, and that I'm being selfish, and that my brother's wedding is more important to them and that I had to choose what is more important for me. I told her that if I have to choose, then I choose to go to my sister-in-law's, and she hasn't responded. Now I'm really worried I've made the wrong decision. So, I really want to know, Aita. Stories number 23. My M28 girlfriend, F26, nearly drowned because she was starving herself to look better for me. Last week me, M28, and my girlfriend, F26, were at my parents' place just hanging out. She was chilling in the pool and I was playing with the dogs. I stepped inside for a second to grab a drink, came back out, and she was gone underwater. I jumped in and pulled her out. She was completely out. I did CPR and mouth to mouth. I thought she was about to die in my arms. Then she gasped, started throwing up water, shaking, and crying. I've never been that scared in my life. That image is stuck in my head on a loop. A few hours later in the ER she was finally stabilized. When I saw her, she didn't even know what had happened. I told her, she cried, thanked me, said I saved her life, and she was beyond grateful. I asked what happened and she just said she felt dizzy. That's it. Next day she gets discharged and I try to get more out of her. I asked if she ate anything that day. I already knew she'd been skipping meals for a while. She lied at first but then admitted she hadn't eaten in like 5 days. She said she wanted to look good in a bikini since she knew we were going on this trip. She just didn't think she'd pass out. I lost it. I screamed at her. I called her stupid. I regret that so much. I apologized later but at the time I was just mad and scared. She cried and said she was sorry. Then she said she feels fat and didn't want me to feel disgusted. That's insane. I see her naked almost every day. I love her body. We have a great sex life. I've never given her a reason to feel insecure. I knew she wasn't eating much but I didn't think she was literally starving herself. She was already skinny when we met but now she's even smaller and still says she feels fat. I'm just pissed at myself. I love her so much. She means everything to me. She's the kindest, sweetest, most amazing girl I've ever had. I tell her I love her all the time, and she still thought she had to starve herself to look better for me. I guess I stopped telling her she's pretty because I thought she knew. She's beautiful. Everyone tells her that. We haven't really talked about it since but I know we need to. I just don't know how to start the conversation. I don't know what to do. How to start the conversation. Stories number 24. Aita for calling the ambulance for my coworker even though I know she was kind of faking it. I, 28M, am working in an English language center in a Southeast Asian country. There's a female coworker in her 20s here who often touches her head and wobbles like she was about to faint, and she would lie down on the couch, letting people fan her, bring water and food to her. We take midday naps here, so whenever she does this, everyone's lunch and nap time is ruined, especially the ones who keep caring for her. This would happen at least twice a month, so over the last 5 or 6 months, I've seen a few incidents when we worked the same shift. One time she even asked me to order ice cream for her. Info: it's a big, crowded city, so you can just walk to the ice cream shop nearby to grab one for $1. Didn't pay me back, but that's beside the point. This Monday, she did it again, and this time she asked a girl to order her an iced drink, a sandwich. A group of coworkers fanned her, did the whole caring thing like she's a sick child. I stood up from my chair, walked towards her, asked if she was okay, then I went to the men's washroom, dialed for an ambulance and went back to my seat. After 20 minutes, we heard the siren, my phone rang again, and I stood up and told her servants to help her to the ambulance. Her face changed, you know, that face, when someone knows they've get up. Other girls asked if I called, I said yeah, it seems more severe this time. It's best for her to go. The ambulance is here already, you'll have to pay for it regardless. The ambulance fee is about 1 to 2 days worth of her salary, $50. Other co-workers actually agreed and helped her get on the ambulance. Now that I think of it, no one called an ambulance for her once. Ever since that incident, she stopped interacting with me beyond highs and hellos. Thursday now, not a word to me. Aita for this. Update. Here's the update on the female coworker who kept fainting and asking people to order food for her. I'll call her Anne, because there's a lot of women involved in this update. After the first post, I texted some female coworkers to see if they had received food money back. 2 female teachers told me that they hadn't, but they didn't mind. The total amount was around $20 per person. Words got around fast, and I was added to a group of 5 other people, so in total, at least 7 female teachers were affected by Anne. Based on their word, Anne has low blood pressure and malnutrition. She indeed is very thin, K-pop idol type of body. She clearly has some unhealthy relationship with food. It's almost as if she doesn't want to pay for food. She borrowed money from multiple female teachers to pay hospital bills, and begged them to not disclose this information to others. We're talking up to a loan that worths 4 months of salary. She basically borrowed half of that teacher's emergency funds. She also flirted with one female teacher, said teacher often brings her on small dinner dates. I didn't ask on this matter. HR was notified, the girls did the talking, I was called in as the one who called the ambulance. After the meeting, it's confirmed that Anne will be let go after 30 days, the reasoning was creating a hostile workplace environment. This morning was really awkward. Unfortunately, HR cannot help with the loans that people have given her, as it's personal matter. However, HR is willing to provide personal information of Anne to the affected coworkers. Oh well. It's their matter now. Now, answering some comments from the previous post. Some mentioned that I was wasting healthcare resources. Well, she was examined and came back with a diagnosis. Some asked me why everything's so cheap. It's Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. Most things are affordable here except real estate lol. In fact, my overseas relatives literally book flights to Vietnam for medical care. Insulin here is like $3 to $7 per vial and you can buy it at almost any public or private hospital. If you have national healthcare ID, it's basically free. Some was worried for me because I accidentally slipped my personal social media page on the previous post. I don't really care honestly, I'm considered a valuable asset, and I'm easy to work with. If anything comes up, I think the company and I will be able to solve it peacefully. Yes, people take midday naps in Vietnam, you're the odd one if you don't. If I'm not standing a class, I'm allowed to be online, doing TikToks, etc. Having a TikTok account is not a legal reason to be let go. There's one Redditor here who was incredibly vindictive and was trying to antagonize me in the DMs. Girl, get a grip, you deliberately ignored all other comments. You're blocked. Bye EE. And finally, don't lend your coworkers half of your emergency funds. Like why? Stories number 25. Aita for backing out of giving my old friend a ride to the airport and ignoring him. I'm enlisted in the military and live in the barracks, basically dorm-style housing. I have this buddy, let's call him Bob. We were in the same platoon for over a year and even deployed together for 6 months. So yeah, we knew each other pretty well. At the beginning of this year, I got moved to a different platoon, and since then, Bob and I haven't talked much. That honestly worked out because over the past 7 months I've been focused on self-improvement. I quit drinking, smoking, cut off toxic friendships, and started working hard on my biggest issue, people-pleasing. Back when Bob and I were close, I'd go out of my way to help him, even when I was exhausted. But once I started setting boundaries, I realized our friendship was very one-sided. He never reached out unless he needed something, and even when I hung out at his place, usually only because our mutual friend, let's call him Ryan, invited me, Bob would ask me to help him clean or do random chores, never Ryan, just me. It annoyed me, but I kept helping to avoid drama. Eventually, I stopped answering his calls. I wasn't trying to be a jerk, I was just tired of being used. Anyway, fast forward to Friday. I run into Bob at work, give him a polite "what's up," and within 3 minutes, he asks me to drive him to the airport this weekend. Out of old habit, I say yes, immediately regret it and spend the day trying to think of a way out. A couple hours later, I text him saying something came up and I can't do it. He replies, "All good, thanks." Cool, I think we're done here. But today, I get 3 missed calls from him. I ignore them. Not 5 minutes later, someone knocks on my door, it's Ryan. Myself and Ryan live in the barracks, and Bob lives off base housing. I'm almost certain Bob asked him to come check if I was in my room. Ryan's got his girlfriend with him this weekend, so obviously he's not trying to be Bob's ride either. Can't blame him. About 1 minute after the knocks on my door, I hear someone lurking outside my window. The back of the barracks has a rock trail, so it's easy to tell when someone's walking past casually, but this was someone stopping, moving around, and clearly trying to peek inside my window to see if I was home. That seriously pissed me off. It felt like a total invasion of privacy. I didn't cancel last minute. I gave him hours, days of notice to find someone else. And instead of handling it like an adult, he spam calls me, sends someone to knock on my door, and, presumably, creeps around my window to catch me hiding. My weekends are the only time I get real peace and separation from work, and I guard that time hard. So yeah, I ignored the calls and the door knock, and I didn't respond to anything after that. But now I'm feeling a little guilty, like maybe I was too harsh or immature about it. So, AITA for backing out of the airport ride and ignoring him after. Top comments. Commenter 1. NTA, you gave him loads of warning, he had time to sort something else or grab a cab Uber. He's a grown bloke. Update. Through a mutual friend, I found out Bob was also looking for someone to take care of his dog while he was out of town. Apparently, he got the dog a few months ago, but never mentioned it to me. No stories, no photos, no heads up. Just silence, and then, I'm assuming, the plan to drop that favor on me last minute after I already agreed to the ride. Looking back, this wasn't the first time he stacked extra favors mid-favor. It's a pattern I'm finally starting to see clearly. And when I backed out of the ride, that's when the spam calls, the knock on my door, and the creeping around my window started. It didn't feel like panic, it felt like pressure. I've tried to be a good friend. I've made excuses, extended grace, and kept showing up. But I'm realizing I've cared more about this friendship than he ever did. And honestly, I'm done with Bob. And, something I almost forgot to mention, Ryan recently told me that Bob has allegedly been cheating on his wife. His girlfriend is good friends with Bob's wife and they communicated about the situation, so that's how he found out. I take that seriously. That's a hard moral boundary for me. And what really gets me is, the few times I hung out when she was around with us, she was incredibly nice, sweet, caring, and respectful. It genuinely makes me feel bad for her. She didn't deserve that, and it really solidified for me that I don't want to be connected to someone who treats the people closest to them like that. At this point, I genuinely don't care to have Bob in my life anymore. But the dog? Never met him. Don't know his name. No idea what breed he is. And I still hope he's doing great. Belly full, living stress-free, and far away from all this last-minute chaos. Honestly, I'd give that dog a ride before I ever say yes to Bob again. Stories number 26. My 8-year-old son hates me, and I don't understand why. I used to believe that your relationship with your children was a given. To clarify, I believed that as long as you treated your children with love, they were guaranteed to love you back, and that the most you had to worry about if you did the right things was some kind of terrible illness or accident that ended them early. I'm here today to warn you that's not true. There are worse possible outcomes. My son is 8 years old, and I cannot be in the same room as him without being attacked. He will scratch, hit, and bite me constantly until we are separated. He bites as hard as he can. My arms are 50% bruises right now from partially healed wounds. I have done nothing to deserve this, and I've tried everything to reach him. I've tried love, discipline, ignoring him, reasoning, nothing sticks, and as the years have gone on it's only gotten worse. He's already in therapy, we've already tried to get him diagnosed with something, we've tried meds, we've tried no meds. We don't know what's going on, nor does his therapist or doctors. On Thursday I watched a movie. About time, very bittersweet movie about how time is limited and we need to enjoy it best we can. There's a scene where a boy of about 8 is playing on the beach with his father for the last time, enjoying one last beautiful day together. I absolutely lost it. My son only communicates with me through violence. Last night I finally gave up. I cried for hours and let go of any expectation I had of having a loving relationship with him. He's 8 years old and hates my guts. There are worse outcomes than outliving your children. Please don't take your loved ones for granted. Edit. Thank you to everyone for the advice. Special shout out to the super weirdo antinatalists, particularly the feminist who made super sure to tell me she was a feminist before telling me to have a post-birth abortion. No single comment made me realize how ahead of the game I am as a parent than that one. We are getting a second psych evaluation soon, so I'll write a second post with results of that. Many of you are absolutely convinced someone else is abusing him, and are unwilling to accept evidence to the contrary. There is no sign of anyone in his life abusing him, nor is there much opportunity. When he's not at school he's with us, save for a few rare occasions where we get a trusted, close family babysitter to go on a date. We've asked him if anyone is hurting him or touching him and he has said no, and we make sure both our kids understand what's inappropriate and know they should tell us if anyone tries anything like that. This is the least likely possibility. Edit. I've created a follow-up post for those who are interested. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. How is the relationship between your son and his mother? Reply. Mostly normal, except the added strain of how he treats me. We have a healthy loving marriage and a daughter as well. Everything outside my son is as you'd expect. Commenter 2. I've read something similar before. Is it possible that on some level, your son either sees you as a threat to his relationship with his mother or is jealous of your relationship with her and is therefore attacking you to get you to step away? I remember reading about a young boy who was feral to his father because he felt some need to protect his mother and couldn't stand that anyone else would love her. He was violent towards his sibling too. I really wish I could remember where I read it. Sad face. Reply. This is a possible theory. Just one of many. We have no particular reason to believe this over any other theory. Commenter 3. Real question. How is he with animals? The way you describe his behavior seems antisocial at minimum. If he's violent with you, and callous about animals, there could be a touch of sociopathy or psychopathy at play. And at 8 years old, chances are he's not opening up to his therapist about his issues, he's probably giving a lot of I don't know answers when asked questions, which is how kids react when they think they are in trouble for their behavior. Reply. He definitely doesn't open up about why he does anything. No signs of violence towards anyone or anything other than me. How is OOP's son at school? Any issues appearing? Reply. We just had a yearly meeting with his special needs team at school. They had only good things to say. No indication of bullying. He loves friends and people except one. Has there been any other explanations for OOP's son's behaviors? Reply. As I mentioned, we have taken him several places. He's diagnosed with ADHD. We have told them ADHD isn't the wild story, but they seem stumped. We will keep trying. He may be on the spectrum, seems to have anxiety and sensory processing issues, but doctors aren't diagnosing him with anything other than ADHD so far. I wasn't a perfect child, but I'm neurologically typical. Commenter 4. What age did this start? Does he physically attack anyone else besides you? Does he attack you when you are alone, when you are with family, and when you are in public? Do the two of you ever have normal interactions? Morning, midday, or night? For example, if you were driving somewhere in a car, would he literally be attacking you while you were driving? Has he seen a psychiatrist or psychologist? Reply. No. Yes, no. Normal interactions are very rare, it's been months. He will attack me while driving, typically throwing things at me. We've told him it's dangerous and can cause an accident, and then we did get in an accident over the summer and he stopped. The accident was the other driver's fault, not my son's. Yes. Commenter 5. How old is your daughter? How does she respond when he's violent? How old was he when this started? Is inpatient treatment possible? This cannot continue and will probably get worse as he gets bigger. Eventually he will be able to take you out. Reply. She is 5. She will comfort me almost daily. Honestly, what she does when he's acting up, I'm focused on not bleeding. He was 5 when it started. At first it was just throwing things at walls, then there was a time where he just hated me but wasn't attacking me. Now it's directed at me rather than the walls. I'm not sure we are quite ready for inpatient treatment, but that's starting to enter the conversation. Update. Hello, some of you folks asked for an update when I first posted, including some who seem to feel lost in a similar situation. I'd like to thank the insane people on my last post who told me to give up on my son. The laughs were therapeutic. And also, please never have kids of your own. We took him to get evaluated again as it was pretty clear what we were dealing with was more than just ADHD. It took us a while to find a place we thought would do it right this time, then it took some more time to get a slot, but today we got the official diagnosis. He has the ADHD, and a severe version of it, but he's also mildly autistic. On top of this he has high anxiety and signs of depression. Some of you were suggesting pandas and ODD, and he does seem to have some of those symptoms, but like the autism, there are things about him that don't fit those diagnoses. There are things about him that aren't typical of autism. For instance, he loves being social. These inconsistencies and the fact he was younger and had severe ADHD which masked the autism made an autism diagnosis difficult at that time. So why does he hate me? As best I understand it so far, this is what happened. When he was halfway into kindergarten is when it started. His disabilities caused him to struggle as compared to his peers, which led to feelings of inadequacy. Being 5, he didn't have the tools to handle that, so he began coming home from school and destroying the house as a way to express his feelings. We would try to reason with him patiently but he wouldn't hear it. We tried many other ways of helping him, but the house was getting destroyed and the only thing that would get him to stop would be sharp, loud commands from my scary male voice, "Stop that." So that's what I would do every time he started acting up, because that's what worked. What I was doing, though I didn't know it, was using his anxiety to scare him into behaving better. As time went on and I continued this, I became this scary figure in his life to be feared. The anxiety built, until it became a complicated hate. So where are we now? He doesn't attack me on sight, usually, which is an improvement, but when I come home from work he often wants to be alone in his room now. When we go out in public things are better, but at home the anxiety he attaches to me is still present, though not as intense. How did I fix it? First, I stayed away. I let things chill out for a few weeks, and when he would attack me, instead of getting angry and punishing him, defending myself by shoving him off me, I remained calm and had my wife correct him instead. Then, I decided I needed to talk to him about all this. I knew that going to his room meant immediate bleeding on my part, so I would armor up in a winter coat and gloves, enter his room, and calmly fend his attacks off. It would end with me restraining him on the floor and just taking to him about his behavior, and why it led to my behavior, and why I never meant to be scary but I had to be scary to stop the madness. This had a little bit of a positive effect, but it took a long time. I did this routine for weeks without much progress. He would attack me, I would restrain him, I would talk and ask him to open up, AMD he would be silent. Then I finally found something that clicked. I told him I loved him and always would, and that I thought he was a special and talented kid, and that I would always be proud of him. He cried in my arms and got angry and wanted me to stop, but I pushed through. So then for a couple weeks I kept letting him know that, and over time his reaction to it became normalized, which is how I knew he really believed and understood it. Now we have a routine I call daddy therapy time, and when I come in his room and say let's talk, he gets straight like a pencil on his bed and I kinda compress him into the bed, and his head hangs off, which he likes for some reason. He has been opening up gradually and actually talking instead of just me talking. Some days are still hard, he still takes everything out on me, but that's okay, better me than anyone else, that's my job. I still get bit and scratched but less often now, and I think things will continue to be 2 steps forward, 1 step back. For you overwhelmed parents out there, keep trying, there's hope. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, highly recommend getting your son a weighted blanket. The right weight is 10% of his weight. These help autistic folks due to the compression. It helps them sleep, soothes anxiety and has been a saving tool of a friend. Nothing worked for him to sleep properly his whole life, then he got a weighted blanket and slept all night for the first time in decades, maybe ever, he's unsure. He told me it's greatly relieved his anxiety and doesn't worry about many things that happen anymore. Best of continued success and joy for your family. Reply, thanks for the tip. We did get him a weighted blanket but he doesn't like it. Commenter 2, if weighted things are a no, maybe a light blanket with something he loves on it. You mentioned he likes to lay with his head hanging off the bed, maybe he would really like a sensory swing. Reply, I'll look into a swing, that's new to me. Commenter 3, you unintentionally became a weighted blanket for him, that's very funny and very cute, haha. Reply, yeah, and I guess the head hanging over the bed is also a form of therapy too. All I knew was that's what he wanted and it seemed to work, so I just kinda accidentally came up with it. Stories number 27. Aita for considering leaving my Latina girlfriend after what I heard her family say. I'm a 29-year-old man. For 2 years I had a long-distance relationship with Diana, who's 26. She's from South America and is very beautiful, so beautiful she could be a model. I'm from Europe and I'm not very handsome. She moved to my country a few months ago. Diana helps with cooking and cleaning, and she works and contributes money for our expenses, but I let her live in my house for free. I recently went to her country because I was thinking about proposing to her, and her family made comments today that made me uncomfortable. Her aunt told me Diana finally got a foreigner like she wanted, and her other family members continued making comments like that. They always made these comments when she wasn't listening. I even got confused because my Spanish isn't good, but sometimes they even said them in English. Honestly, I feel used, and I already want to return to my country. I'm considering leaving her because I feel like she's using me. Even though she can't get citizenship by marrying me, it would make things easier for her. I don't want to talk to her because I feel pathetic. She's very pretty, and I often wondered why she was dating me. Now I doubt myself even more. I know her family isn't entirely trustworthy because Diana's father cheated on Diana's mother for years, her father even had a child with his mistress, and her family covered for him. So I don't know how true her words are, but I can't help but feel insecure. I feel humiliated, alone, and I'm in a country I don't know. I don't want to talk about this with my friends and family because I'm ashamed. So I'm just looking for advice. Aita. Stories number 28. Won $1.5 million judgment 28 years ago and just found out yesterday. Location, Bronx, New York. Sounds almost unreal. Yesterday while searching the Bronx County Court records for my father in a separate matter we found record of a workers' comp case filed on his behalf in 97 foot. Back in 96 foot my father had been in a factory accident where he worked and it cost him 3 of his fingers. The case file that I read last night argued that the machinery was known to be defective and the court agreed granting my father a $1.5 million judgment. The issue is my father had no idea that this lawsuit was even filed. He sat for disposition according to case file but the company he worked at made him believe that nothing was going to come from it so he let it go. At the time we were recently immigrated and my father spoke zero English. Once the company told him that and after over a year of physical therapy we moved and changed phone numbers. Which is what I assume prevented the lawyer from finding us though I question how that's possible. Long story short, my sisters and I are hoping to be able to collect this money for him as he's nearing retirement age and this would help set him up to remain independent. 1. What are our options? Who do we contact to try and collect on this judgment assuming it was even paid out? The attorney on record has moved on to different industry and I don't think the firm is active anymore. 2. How does something like this slip past the crack? It feels to me like things weren't handled correctly and I want to make sure he is compensated appropriately as our lives could have been much different had he received this money. Not sure why he couldn't be found. We share the same name and I can tell you it is unique. We were also on permanent resident visas so it's not like we were hiding in this country and couldn't be tracked. Paid taxes every year. Became citizens in 2004. Seems to me like a lot of avenues to be found through, just not a lot of effort on the part of whomever was looking. Stories number 29. 24M, I read my girlfriend's, 23F, text from her boss and don't know what to do. I know I did something wrong. I read her text thread from her boss without permission. Some may accuse me and say it's unexcusable. Others will know that feeling. When you know something is weird and wrong and your so won't tell you. This was one of those times. We've been dating 4 months. I've never read any of her texts before. I always trusted her. That being said, she was invited to a party yesterday that happened to be cancelled. She was relieved, she told me. She wanted to hang out with me, she said. She told me there was going to be weed, and they wanted to get her fucked up. Red flag 1. I wasn't invited. I couldn't even come. Red flag number 2. Hey babe, I'll just come over after the bar tonight and we can watch TV and fall asleep together. Oh, I probably won't be home till 6 a.m. Red flag 3. So I checked the thread. You free for an SS Monday night? Boss sure, LNSS where you say yes to anything at the door. Boss I'm setting up a poll, boss as long as you don't mind me missing work from breaking my wrist, L you'll be fine. The point of the SS party is to let go, so, let go, boss there's only gonna be 2 to 3 guys there. Boss how hard is the 9 o'clock start time, can I be there at 10? L. From there it goes on, but that's the important part. That and she was going to go, she wasn't going to tell me. She was going to be stripping for her boss and 2 other guys that I don't know. She's not a stripper. She's a southern girl from the country. I love her and I'm heartbroken and it'll break my heart even further to break up with her. But what the fuck? Please, any advice any at all? I'm stuck at work with this thought on my mind. I sit at a computer with nothing to do all day. It's gonna sit there all day. Any advice at all? TLDR, I read her text thread from her boss that I already had bad feelings about. He invited her to an SS party, sexy stripper, and she accepted, willing to cancel plans with her friends to go. The only reason she didn't go and strip for 3 guys is because it was cancelled. I love her but think it's over now, help. Edit, I didn't think it could get more messed up, but I just remembered another text. It makes me angry and I kind of want to break his legs. I think she was feeling nervous about it and he replied, "You'll do what you're required to do, just like everyone else there." Edit 2, I'm heading to her place in 10 minutes to confront her about this. Thanks for all the comments and advice. I'll make an update when I get home or back to work. Update 1, so here's what went down. I went to her house during my lunch break and took the second part of the day off. I came in calm and asked her to sit down with me. I need you to be completely honest with me. I told her that I made a mistake, broke her trust and looked at her phone. After I explained how uncomfortable I was with the party. How I've never snooped before but I just had a bad feeling about it and I read her boss's texts. At this point I was prepared for a backlash. What the fuck? Why did you go through my phone? But she didn't do that, she just said okay and continued to listen to me. I asked her what she was thinking. Why she would agree to go to something like that. I knew it seemed so unlikely that she would do that willingly, and I was hoping there was something I was missing. I asked her why her boss was using that kind of tone with her. About the polls, and the say yes to anything at the door and do what's required of you. This is more or less her response. She broke down crying. Oh, my God, I'm such an idiot. I feel like the naive 18-year-old. I came out from the South and I'm still not comfortable with any of that sexual stuff. Even at the bar they call me wide eyes because if something sexual happens I get so surprised. Then, boss, kept telling me about these parties he had once a month and he kept saying that I wasn't ready to go for like 2 years. And finally he asked me to go so I said yes. He started saying weird things but I just figured it was, boss, being weird. He's always had an inappropriate sense of humor and I figured he was just doing it again. And then when we went to Vegas and it was really fun I figured the party would be really fun, too. And it's so stupid that it took you to point out that he has been manipulating me for the past year. It's just so scary because at the bar he and the other guys always step up and protect me if things get out of hand with a customer. They always have my back so I started to trust him. I don't know what to do. What should I do? She never got mad at me for the texts. She, in fact, told me to look at her phone whenever I want. I have nothing to hide and I never want to make you feel this uncomfortable again. I don't want to ever jeopardize this with you. She told me she loved me and she apologized for allowing the conversation to even get to that point. That she should have stopped making jokes about breaking her wrist and should have flat out said she was uncomfortable but didn't want to risk her status at her job. She said she wants to call and talk to her best friend who is a law student and see if there's a case. She screenshotted her conversation and emailed it to herself. She called her friend who worked there and told her and apparently he was inappropriate to her as well. She plans to talk to HR when she gets back from her family vacation. We spent the rest of the day together. Had dinner and fell asleep at her place. I have 100% faith that she was telling the truth. And instead of being unfaithful she was just incredibly fucking naive and trusting. I've shifted my anger all towards her boss and really look forward to the consequences I hope come his way. TLDR, it turns out my so wasn't planning on stripping. Wasn't planning on being unfaithful. And is just ridiculously naive and trusting of people that don't deserve her trust. Edit okay, I've heard both sides. Positive support, and cautionary tales and deceitful behavior. I wrote down some things that I want to get straightened away and I'll talk to her again tonight. The main points are this. I want to clear up exactly who was supposed to be at the party. I'm pretty sure there were other girls invited. I want her to confirm that SS meant smoke sesh. I want her to tell me her feelings when she knew that I wasn't invited to the party. I want her to confirm that she is going to take action against him. Either through HR, it's a chain, or through legal counsel. If anything major happens, I'll update you in the morning. But you can safely assume we're either done after tonight, or everything is cleared up. I don't think I want to go through another day with me having to worry about this shit. So tonight will be a deciding night. Thanks for all the help. Those with the support and those with who don't want to see me make another mistake and be hurt further. Update 2. Alright, I figured I'd do this again since everyone was so interested the last 2 days. I went over to her house last night and told her I needed to talk to her about this again and just clarify things. Again, she didn't get mad or defensive and she listened. I sat her down on the bed and I asked her what, exactly, she thought the party was going to be. It was just supposed to be a jam with all the musicians from bar. We were gonna smoke a ton and play music and drink. The bar has 3 other girls that play there. 2 of them were supposed to be there. I guess when he said there would only be 2 to 3 other guys, he meant just the male population. So I asked her what exactly SS meant. Unfortunately for most of you, and this is probably mostly my fault, it doesn't mean safe sex party, or stripper party, or smoke sesh. And I apologize that I assumed it was any of those and made the situation seem worse. But I was literally just going off the initials, the stripper pole reference, and some advice from friends on what it could possibly mean. It means secret society party. I was weary about that answer until she showed me texts from another girl that works there, in which they talk about, boss, as secret society parties. Even then, I needed one more thing from her. I needed her to tell me straight up that she was going to take action against him. Whether it was with HR, a lawyer, or written disapproval of his actions that can later be used in a case against him if the treatment continued. She said, yes. Confidently, and assertively. She said she was going home to talk to her parents and her friend who is the law student for the best way to approach the situation. To that I said, okay, but I need you to know if you don't, I won't feel comfortable with any of this. I want you to know this isn't an ultimatum, but I just need you to know where I stand. She promised me she would. Then, and this was pretty awesome, asked me if I had any other questions. Just keep asking. Ask me everything. I promise I'm not lying to you. And again reinstated, I would never do anything to jeopardize this. I never want you to lose respect for me, and I feel so stupid for not just saying no immediately. It's disrespectful toward me and even more so toward you. So I did ask, and I asked her about Vegas, and many more questions about the party, and it all lined up. And it felt real, and my gut tells me we're okay. Again, if she doesn't take action when she gets back from home, it's over. But as of now I have every reason to believe she's been faithful and upfront. She didn't hide the texts from me. She just didn't think it necessary to tell me because she didn't see the outrageousness of his attitude. She told me about the party before it was supposed to happen, but she just didn't tell me about the texts. I truly believe this is a case of her misjudging a situation she previously felt comfortable with. Again. I'll update when if the action towards the boss takes place if you guys want me to. TLDR, went to my girlfriend's last night. Talked about every question I had in my mind. She calmly answered and explained and clarified. And reinforced the idea she was being truthful and honest. She promises to take action against the boss when she returns home. She doesn't work until then anyway. Edit. Okay everyone, thanks again for sticking it through with me. Thanks to all those who continue to give me support, PMs, and advice. Thanks for all those whose opinion keeps me honest and open to potential dishonesty. Like I've said multiple times already, I feel so much better about all of this. She's already started the process of putting something together toward him. If you all want, I'll update when and if that happens. Till then, I'm off. Thanks again for everything, Reddit. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Some people are genuinely naive, and I think your GF was just oblivious to her boss's actions intentions. Hopefully things go well and seniority bullshit doesn't happen when she does go to HR. Reply. From what she says, a lot of the people don't like him already. The PR manager has a huge vendetta against him from a past experience. So I'm hoping this can finally get him out of there. Talking to my GF's friend, it seems to be a universal feeling. Commenter 2. I'm setting up a poll, boss. As long as you don't mind me missing work from breaking my wrist, L. There was going to be weed and booze. What did she think was going to happen? 24-hour Super Smash Brother marathon that magically broke her wrists. Despite your updates, this is still fishy. Do not trust her yet. Reply. Again, when he said that, she naively dismissed it as an inappropriate joke that her boss had made. She didn't think he was serious. I asked her what would have happened if he was, and she told me she would have called me immediately to pick her up. Her response to the perceived joke was a dismissive joke, that she already admitted was a mistake. She should have told him no straight up. And she knows I'm upset about her lack of assertion. Final update. I told you all I would update you in a few months. I was thinking about not doing it, and just leaving this behind, but I felt like I owed it to the people here who helped me out. It's been a good couple of months. We're stronger and better than ever. We hang out constantly, take each other on amazing dates, road trip across states, plan Italian vacations. She doesn't talk to her boss outside of work after confronting him about the way he talked to her. I met her parents, she met mine, and everything turned out better than I could have hoped. I wanted to write this so people know that if you keep a calm head, and talk to your so, and really figure out what's going on, you can work through it. Instead of jumping to insane conclusions and confronting your so with anger and frustration. No stripping pimping scheme. No sex worker at night. No unfaithful behavior. Just an asshole boss. I just thought I would let you guys know. Thanks to all those who legitimately gave me advice. TLDR, months later, and we're stronger than ever. No weird sex schemes, everything is amazing. Final comments. Commenter 1. Did she not report him? Or change job? Reply. Nope. She's not gonna be there that much longer, she's working on finding a new job now. I'm not even worried about him anymore. Commenter 2. I did not get to read all of your posts because most of them are removed. What happened to if she doesn't take action we are done? It sounds like she calmed you down and handled whatever relationship discreetly with her boss and now nothing is coming of it. No letter of disapproval, no talking with HR, boss gets away clean to make more uncomfortable future situations. Reply. I just decided not to give her an ultimatum. Instead we talked it out, I felt comfortable enough with what she told me and I proceeded with caution from there. I was extremely cautious the following weeks. But she has never lied to me or been deceitful in any way. So she successfully won my trust back. Will we stay together forever? Probably not. I'm 24 and don't plan on being married till 30, but I'm enjoying what we have right now with absolutely zero concerns about her faithfulness. Her house is pretty messy though. So maybe I'll just call it off now. Stories number 30. Aita for refusing to buy my boyfriend's daughter a gift and silencing his notifications while I was away on a business trip. I, F32, went on an 8-day business trip to Japan. I work as an external consultant for a company. This would be a visit to scale our services. Me and 3 other colleagues would visit, but we would be at the same site for only 2 days until we were spread out to other areas. Was very excited until I told my boyfriend, Brian M38, of 8 months. His reaction wasn't very positive. I asked what was going on, and he said he was spaced out because of situations at his job, but he assured me everything was fine. Days later, he asked if I could take him. This caught me off guard, and I said I needed to think about it, and then he said he would want his daughter to come along. I understand his point. She's 17F, loves anime, and has impressive knowledge on some very niche characters, but also, I have my own kids, ages 4 and 5, and I would rather share that breakthrough with them, although realistically talking, bringing them would be unprofessional. My accommodations were paid for by the client and that I had already confirmed. I got a very nice accommodation, but it was definitely booked for a single traveler. My colleagues had other rooms. Bringing his daughter would require a separate bedroom or a suite. I would not go back to cancel on the accommodation or ask for a larger space, unthinkable, or do anything to mess up the schedule. When I told Brian, he said I should be able to ask for some changes. I also realized that he wasn't ready to pay for any of this since he said he would reimburse me later. I'm financially okay, but the whole idea of this trip is to make more money, not spend it, and potentially be unable to recover it. Also, this was never a vacation or anything, and he said things that showed me he didn't understand. Believe that me and my team and I were on a tight schedule. I could surely spend time with him and his daughter after work, but while bringing them at another time and not in that situation. I didn't ask the client at all because I was embarrassed. Also, I began to worry about his sense of humor. It's not like I've mastered Japanese business etiquette, but I took the time to learn, and Brian sometimes does things that get him in trouble. We would be having dinner with our client and colleagues and I could either have him stay at the hotel, not a great way to treat a partner, or bring him along if that was permitted, awkward especially if it messed up the accommodation schedule. When I candidly expressed this concern, he got extremely pissed off and gave me the silent treatment. This stressed me out, and I told him. I left for the airport while he was still not talking to me. We talked only a few times while I was abroad. His daughter did not reply to any of my messages. I don't know if he falsely told her that she was getting an early high school graduation present, trip, or if she was just mad at me. I got a hold of a huge plush anime character and took a selfie asking if she liked it. No answer. About 1 or 2 days before I flew back, he started texting me with requests. He wanted me to get XYZ, this and that, for his daughter and his nieces. I got very angry because she didn't even reply, but he had no problem asking for more and more stuff, and that put me off. I told him that his daughter never replied to any of my messages, and he didn't say anything about it. I ended up silencing his notifications and buying presents only for my family. When I got back, all I wanted was to spend time with my kids since I've never been away from them. I kept putting off seeing Brian until last Friday when we met for pizza, and he looked uncomfortable. He said I let his daughter down by allowing her to think she was getting the plush toy and was also in disbelief when I confirmed that I didn't bring her anything. I told him that I didn't think it mattered since she completely blanked me out. We had a back and forth, but there was no resolution. I feel more lost than when this whole thing started. I feel like he thinks a gift for his daughter was the solution to everything, and I disagree. I'm doing my best to create a good future, and I'm a bit on the fence about continuing the relationship. I care about him and his kid, but I'm afraid of being dragged down, and the way he pressured me made me really uncomfortable. I'm also a bit hurt because I had built a relationship with his daughter, and not getting a single reply to my messages is honestly a bad look. I am tempted to think that she's either angry because I didn't agree to bringing them along or that maybe he told her to ignore me. I'm planning on ending things because I need clarity, but also, maybe I'm being unfair. I think there's the possibility that he got overly excited and got carried away, but I know he will likely be unable to pay me back. Update, thanks to everyone for their advice and input. I just wanted to clarify about the plush toy incident. His daughter and I used to spend time together, some afternoons after school while he was at work. I did give her spontaneous gifts that she enjoyed. We would email and text each other during her time with her mom, joint custody. When I sent the toy picture, I wanted to know if it was up her alley. I would have bought it if she said she liked it but got the silent treatment instead. I know some of you think I was wrong for not bringing her anything, but part of my decision to leave him comes from feeling like they acted like an exclusive clique where others can't be accepted unless they give to them. She left me on scene, and left me asking hello. Like an idiot. We broke up last night. He wanted to come to my place, but I didn't allow it. I drove to his place instead and delivered 2 packages that had been delivered at my P.O. box and told him that I would return any mail or package addressed to him from now on. I didn't get off my vehicle. The conversation was very short but very sour. I told him that he acted too greedy and conceited for me to feel any interest in prolonging the relationship. He tried to explain that his daughter was hurt because she had her hopes set on the trip, but I said this was a lesson for her so that she learns to work for her own things when she becomes an adult, instead of piggybacking her way. And also, that this is on him, as a father. I took off to avoid more back and forth. I asked him never to contact me again and blocked them both. I already changed my locks, changed all my streaming passwords, etc.